Sadie woke up today with two sore ears. She's had tubes before.
Oh, they fell out?
Well, they did, but I'm pretty sure she's going to have to get new ones in now.
Again.
They've been out for 2 years, and now
Okay.
she's starting to get ear infections.
All right, welcome everybody to call this meeting to order. This is the meeting committee of the whole, which is a meeting of the Shippensburg Area School District School Board. We have 4 items, I believe, on our agenda tonight. We'll start off with the first, which is a presentation from our exchange students.
Come on forward, ladies. Gentlemen.
Heard you say it.
At least 10 times.
Yes, please.
So just a little bit of prelude here. This school year, the district was fortunate to have 4 exchange students from other countries attend our senior high school. Tonight, these students would like to present to the board a flag from their home country and speak a little about their experiences here in Shippensburg. This is a wonderful tradition, I think, that I don't know who started it, but I love that we have these flags, and I'm told that they're being warehoused somewhere with the idea that they are going to be all displayed prominently in our senior high school at some point. Yeah, is there, so I'm told that each of you would like to say something about your experience at Shippensburg, so feel free.
Good evening, Shippensburg Area High School Board. I'm Haruo Mizuno from Japan. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about my exchange year tonight. I'm really thankful for being able to be in this school for my exchange year. I would like to thank the board for approving me to spend the year. I feel very much supported by Shippensburg High School staff and teachers. I'd especially love to thank Mrs. Frentino, Mr. Kurzawa, Mrs. Moose, Mrs. Lawrence for supporting me throughout the year and being thoughtful for me. My highlight of my year was school activities such as cheerleading and track and field. It has been an amazing year, and this couldn't be happened without the support from Shippensburg's High School Board. Thank you for the wonderful year.
Terrific, thank you.
Hi, my name is Eden Dujardin. I'm an exchange student from France, and just like Haruo, I wanted to thank the school board and the whole high school for giving us the opportunity of being able to study here. Just give me, and I think it gave all of us the chance of trying things we never could have done in our countries, and very unique experience. If I could stay another year, I would, but I need to go back home. I'll be missing all the teachers. Oh, okay.
You're good.
All the teachers and all the friends made here, especially Miss Lawrence, also Mr. Kurzawa, Mr. Martin, and Miss Frontino for helping us through the year and being amazing teachers.
Merci.
Hi, I'm Lila Simon-Pejanski. I'm also from France. Also, I'm sorry about my voice. My allergies are getting really bad, so I'm sorry about that. I'm really grateful to be a student here, especially because I had the opportunity to be a senior. So it's amazing. I'm also going to be able to graduate from Shippensburg Area High School, and I'm really glad for that. I want to thank especially Mrs. Dobbs, my counselor, because she helped me when it got tough, which an exchange year can be sometimes. And all of my teachers, I really like how close we can be with the teachers here, which is not always the case in France. I liked the fact that there are a lot of activities related to the school in the US. It's really different from my country. And I'm just really grateful and thankful for being able to be here. Thank you.
Good evening, or in my language, we say Assalamu alaikum. I'm Amar Sayed, and I'm from Pakistan. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for providing me with such an opportunity that I came here on a scholarship and was able to study for a whole academic year and live my true American dream. I got to share my culture with people. I got to give so many presentations about my country and share facts about my country. And I didn't only get to experience American culture, I got to experience other cultures like Hindu culture, Hispanic, Jamaican, all these other cultures. So it was truly a colorful exchange year. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys coming this evening. We're very proud to have hosted you, and you certainly probably brought more to our school than we gave you, even though it sounds like we did a pretty good job. So thank you very much. We really enjoyed you guys being here, and we wish you safe travels. And
I think we have a couple.
oh, do we have two more? Oh, sorry.
So Katrina and I are ambassadors
not
for
exchange
the AUSA program, and we just
So,
wanted to come and say thank
thanks.
you for giving us the opportunity and approving these exchange students, because they're truly some of our lifelong friends, and we have just made amazing friendships through these opportunities. So we just wanted to come forward
say
and thank you as well. So.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo the superintendent's comments. I applaud your courage to be able to do this. I'm just trying to imagine myself at your age doing a similar thing, and I don't think I could have done it. So we thank you for being here and making our sort of cultural tableau richer in Shippensburg. We really appreciate it and applaud your bravery and courage. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Okay, Dr. Moore, would you mind gathering their flags? Thank you.
All right, the second item on our agenda is in regards to the additional targeted support and improvement plan. Mr. Floor, I believe the presentation is yours.
Mr. Floor has the floor.
Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you guys again today. The purpose of my meeting, or me being here today, is to inform you about our proposed draft plan for our ATSI school, or ATSI plan for the 23-24 school year. And I'll back up a little bit. I have a cough drop in my mouth because it's been a rough couple of days for me with allergies as well, so I do apologize for that if I have to stop and take a drink as well. I'm also going to summarize the work that a lot of dedicated personnel put into this plan to help and support all the students at James Byrd going forward. So first, I'm going to start with...
Mr. Floor, could you, I don't know, slide the microphone maybe to the side of the pulpit a little bit or whatever so that you can talk right into that thing. And
Is that going to be a little bit better for you?
I think so. Thank you.
Perfect. So first, I'm going to start with a 30,000 foot view overview of what ATSI is. Mrs. Woodall did a good job of explaining that at the previous board meeting, but I'm just going to highlight some key points. So ATSI does stand for Additional Targeted Support and Improvement. It's one of the designations that PDE can provide schools, which would also include TSI and CSI. The designation is given to schools when one or more subgroups perform below the threshold set for academic proficiency, academic growth, and attendance. So as an ATSI school, you're expected to go through a process of identifying strengths and challenges, setting goals, establishing an action plan, sharing that action plan with the board and the public, and then getting your approval for that as well. So moving forward a little bit, James Byrd was an ATSI school designated in 2019. Over the winter, we learned that we would continue that designation moving forward. And we got on that designation because of our students with disabilities in third grade did not meet the thresholds for academic proficiency and attendance. So at that point, our school team started to get together to determine the plan for the upcoming school year. And we took all of the strengths, challenges, and focuses all of that onto two specific goals. One of them would highlight the academic proficiency piece, which would be goal number 1. And so all of our goals are written in like a SMART format. So SMART is an acronym standing for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time specific. So during the 23-24 school year, grade level teams will meet with special education teachers and reading specialists to identify needs in core instruction, utilizing the data that we have and meeting for a minimum of 5 times a school year. So taking that and breaking that down a little bit, it just really emphasizes the need for communication and collaboration to help identify core instructional needs and student-specific needs and how we are going to best support them. So we're going to be doing that by evaluating students using benchmark and progress monitoring with our ELA and math using iReady and Acadience. We're going to use a specific problem-solving framework to build and document collaborative efforts to also ensure that the regular meetings are being held to analyze individual and grade level data needs and to plan for our instruction and our intervention. And that's going to be an ongoing process. So once we identify our specific needs and how we're going to help support them, we're going to continue to work on collecting data to evaluate how our progress is going towards those goals, and then reconvene in about 8-ish weeks to evaluate, did we meet our goal, do we need to change it, and what is our new goal going to be going forward. The second goal will focus on attendance. So there are a lot of numbers in this piece, so I'll break it down a little bit more for you. So 85% of our students with disabilities will increase their regular attendance to 80% for the 23-24 school year. So regular attendance is identified for, or defined, as students who are present for 90% or more of the time that they are enrolled at the school. So if a student would start and the year and stay with us for the full 180 days, that 90% mean they would be absent 18 days or less.
Mr. Floor, I just want to interrupt. I think this reverted back. Remember how you had that other saved version? I think this reverted back because it should be 80% of students with disabilities will be in regular attendance, essentially.
Okay.
I don't know what happened with that, but
I'm not too sure either.
sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. But then also if a student would be present for, or be enrolled for 100 days at James Byrd, that number then would also change to reflect the 90% of that 100 days that they're enrolled. And this also includes students that we have that are in out-of-district placements as well. So it's anybody that is tied back to or would normally attend James Byrd. To help improve the attendance piece, we're going to continue to use Class Dojo as a communication method with parents. So it's a messaging app that students or parents can use to communicate with their teachers. And teachers will communicate with their parents, if their child is absent for 2 consecutive days or more. We'll also continue to use attendance letters that are mailed home after those 3, 5, and 10 unexcused absences, as well as include some additional information for parents on the importance of attendance. And we're also going to have whole school incentive rewards for reaching regular attendance goals that we will be setting throughout the course of the school year. So moving forward with the timeline, obviously presenting for you guys today on the first June meeting, that would be for the discussion agenda for you guys to discuss this or ask any additional questions, with the hopes that you guys will be voting for approval on the second June meeting, and then I can submit all the necessary paperwork to PDE before the end of June. Are there any questions? I tried to take a big document that I believe that was left in your folders as well and try to bring that down to something very concise and hopefully easy to understand for you.
So on the attendance goal then, what should the numbers be there?
So it should say 80% of students with disabilities will have regular attendance. So regular attendance is being defined by attending 90% or more of the school year. When they designate an ATSI school, it is the bottom 5th percentile of attendance in the state for that subgroup. So they don't give you an actual number to shoot for. So looking at last year's goals, schools that met the benchmark for the special education population had 80%. So we figured that's a good goal to shoot for because those are the schools that met the benchmark, was it's 80%. Now, that might change this year, but we don't know. It's also a lagging indicator, which actually means that this year, when they were looking at the attendance data, they were using the attendance data from 2 years ago. So it's a lagging indicator.
Okay.
It's the fun with the state.
But we're guessing then that with the numbers moving where they are and the requirements moving where they are, that this
The
goal
80%
number
will meet
2
that benchmark.
will hit it, will hit the moving target somehow?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Floor.
Thank you. All right. Third item on the agenda is a presentation by our food service provider, Chartwells.
Go first.
Or sorry, is it Miss Lentz that's
I was
doing the
going to run through
presenting?
the presentation and then.
All right,
turn
I'm
it
sorry. Yep, I just was overwhelmed by the display of, I don't know.
Iron Chef.
Looked like there was food over there, so I was a little distracted.
All right, so this evening, I'd like to give an update to the board on our food service department. So things we have on our agenda is just looking at our current and historical financial overview, the equipment needs within our food service department, talking a little bit about the summer food service program for this coming summer, and then just to let you know, at our upcoming Budget and Finance Committee meeting on June 5th, I'd like to provide the board with some information regarding a community eligibility provision program. So starting with the financial update, you can see we'll go over to the far column, which is the current school year through April 30th of 2023. So you can see that this year so far, we are trending to be profitable in the food service department. So currently, we have a surplus in our account of $267 or $267,189. The previous year in 21-22, we actually had a surplus of just under $600,000. So these 2 years are a little abnormal to what we've previously seen. In the past, you can see the last three years there, we usually trend to be pretty much break even. So you might be wondering, well, why in 21-22 did we make such a profit? If you recall, that was the year that the state actually provided school districts funding to provide free breakfast and lunch for all students. So we had a higher participation rate in that year. And then, of course, in the current school year, the state is providing free breakfast for all students, so our participation in the breakfast program is higher than what it traditionally has been. So, as far as equipment needs in the food service department, there is a list of needs in our department, starting at the top, with that taking the priority. The food service department also supports replacing the generator at the high school, which the board has seen that and is in the process of approving that to come out of the capital maintenance plan. We also need to replace the mechanical components of our USDA walk-in freezer at the high school at an estimated cost of $16,000. We may have a need to replace both the walk-in freezer and refrigerator at the intermediate school. Currently, we're working with a vendor to identify if they're able to make replacements or repairs to that refrigerator and freezer. They're trying different things, but if that doesn't work out, we might have to replace the entire units for both of them. So we're estimating that at $100,000. We also need to replace our sneeze guards on the serving line at our high school. There's a quantity of 4 at an estimated cost of $35,000. We're also needing to upgrade our smallwares or add to our smallwares in all of our schools at $25,000. That's things such as your eating utensils, your serving utensils, sheet pans, those type of things. We're also in need to replace our steamer at the high school. We currently keep repairing that, and that keeps nickel and diming us. So we are in the need to replace that at approximately $27,000. We would also like to purchase an Oliver packing machine, 2 of them, to be used at our intermediate and middle school. That would be a cost of $10,400. We'd also like to buy 2 permanent cashier stations at our intermediate school at $7,200, and then to buy a new a la carte kiosk at our middle school at $25,000. Those subtotal $245,600. And then we have 2 more items on the list. We have a dishwasher at the high school that we think that we can continue to manage with, but would like to definitely replace that during the construction project when we renovate the high school. And then also, we may need to replace the mechanical components on our walk-in freezer at the high school at $16,000. So that probably needs to be done within the next 2 years. So those two total items is $116,000 for a grand total of $361,600. So with the profit that we have made in our food service account over the last 2 years, we would like to use that additional net cash access to at least cover the first, items 2 through 9 on the list that total $245,600. So the state does not like food service funds to make a substantial profit. So at the end of every fiscal year, we have to file a final report with the state. And if we are over the average 3 month of expenditures, which they consider excess cash resources, we have to provide them with a justification of how we are going to use those funds. So at the end of last fiscal year, we had net cash access of about $118,000. With the current trend of our profit this year, I think we're going to add to that, and I feel confident our net cash access will come close to being able to pay for items 2 through 9. So we would like to make a recommendation to the board to be able to pay for these items out of the food service fund. So we will be placing that on an upcoming agenda for the discussion and then action. Is there any questions on our food service equipment needs? Onto our summer food service program. So I think we're in like our 7th year of the summer food service program here at the district. And so you might wonder who is eligible to participate in this program. It's children 18 years old or younger, and children that are over 18 but enrolled in a school program with disabilities. So they don't have to be children in our district. It can be any children in any community can come here and get a free meal at our district. If you recall, during the pandemic, we were able to offer meals that were grab and go. However, since the pandemic has ended, we have to go back to the congregate meal requirement where students must eat on site. So they can come here and get either, if they come during our breakfast time frames, they can get a breakfast, and if they come during our lunch time frames, they can get a lunch. So they can get both if they come during those time frames. We are running open sites, but we are only serving breakfast at James Byrd and Nancy Grayson. Lunch will be at our high school, James Byrd and Nancy Grayson. Our sites will be open Monday through Thursday, and then we do have a closed site program, Head Start, that we are able to feed as well through the summer food service program.
And I'd just like to chime in to remind the board that our free and reduced economically disadvantaged percentage is 52% of our student population. So this becomes more critical through those summer months.
Christy, what time will they be serving those?
I don't have the times memorized. I know we're working those out. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. Do you have those memorized? If not, that's where I was going to say more details to come. We're certainly coming up with a flyer, and we would certainly share that with you. But
so breakfast, we were hoping between 7:30 and 9 to give those kids that get up a little later time to eat. And then for lunch, we were shooting for 11 to 1.
Thank you.
so one thing that is new this year, we are excited. The state has extended a non-congregate meal waiver. We cannot run the non-congregate meal waiver the same time as the congregate meal settings. So what that means is students do not need to eat on campus. So we are now going to be able to offer grab-and-go meals or bundled meals for the weekend, for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But part of the requirements is parents must pre-register, so we're working out that process. And we will bundle breakfast and lunch that families can come pick up at the district Thursday afternoon, evening, sometime in that time frame. We'll iron out the time frame when they can be picked up. And they will get meals for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then, as I said, like more details to come. We will definitely be putting a flyer together with the times, the pickup, how to pre-register, and we will certainly share that out with the board. We'll be sharing that many ways on our district website, through our Facebook, through community churches, and we will be trying to get that word out as much as we can. And again, this is always pending state approval. We filed the application last week, so hopefully we will hear in time to be able to be up and running as soon as school is out. Is there any questions on our summer lunch program?
So I just want to make sure it's clear that this is open to any child in Shippensburg. You don't have to qualify for free introduction. Any child can come and participate in these programs and get this food every day and potentially on the weekends if everything gets approved. This is for any child. And so spread the word. Free food for children in Shippensburg all summer long if you're willing to go to one of these schools and get some food.
Just the requirements is 18 and under, or if you have a disability and you're enrolled, yes.
It's really handy for parents in the summertime.
Yep, just our closing remarks. We have Mrs. Smith and Mr. Cauldron, if I said that right, here to demo and do a taste testing. So Mrs. Smith is the Director of Dining Services. I don't know if many of you met her yet. And then we have the Assistant Director of Dining Services, Jonathan Cauldron. And then just a reminder that we're having a standalone Budget and Finance Committee meeting on June 5th at 6 p.m., hopefully to finalize the final budget so the board can take action on that at our June 12th meeting. Is there any questions? I'll turn it over to Mrs. Smith and Mr. Cauldron.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. Good evening, behind me. I apologize that my back is just here. So, what we're doing tonight is a quick stir fry. It's a vegetable stir fry with beef over cilantro lime rice, and we have a chimichurri sauce. This is, I don't know if it's familiar with it, but it's a bunch of our chopped up, has a little bit of diced onion, garlic, and oil and vinegar. Really good. Thank you. So what I'm going to do, and what is making this possible is these new induction burners that we got this year that I have used personally for Discovery Kitchens and cooking demos like this. We also used them about 2 months ago for a cooking competition that we had with students, which we hope to do more of that next year. We had a cooking competition with students at Jamesburg during, I think it was a science fair. I apologize, I don't remember exactly what it was. So we made, there was 5 students that were picked by the class and the teacher who were able to make, and they each made their own soup, and then we had all their family members and other students that came up and they tried the soup, and then they could vote on who was the best one, and a young girl won that. So they were very, very happy, and it was a great turnout, and the students loved it. So what I have, as you can see in front of you, we have rice and vegetables. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of oil in the pan, and then I'm going to put my vegetables in first. And I pre-blanched the vegetables just to make them softer and so it's quick and easy to cook.
I'm sorry, Al, would you mind taking that microphone and sliding it over so that perhaps...
I thought you were pointing at me to get something to eat.
Maybe you can just put it right in front of the table or something. I don't.
Is that better? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, it's just that we have folks at home who,
I know.
you know, they love to.
I was trying
watch
to
the
yell as loud as I could.
And you were doing a great job.
So I have the veggies inside right now, and what I have in here is green beans, snow peas, carrots, and mushrooms, and we have peppers and green onion and the rest of it. So I have the veggies in here, and then when they're almost done, I'm dropping a little bit of garlic in, and then the beef. And then once all that is cooked and hot, I put it over, I put it over the rice, and then once you're done, because the chimichurri sauce is normally served cold or room temperature, that is just put on top of the beef once it's finished. So, thank you very much, and enjoy.
Really good.
Thank you.
So just a couple of words. Dawn and Jonathan have made an outstanding team, and they absolutely go above and beyond, as you might see from the evidence of requesting to come and do a live cooking demonstration. They're very passionate about food services. They're very passionate about getting our kids the best possible experience. And just thank you to Jonathan and Dawn for your time, and Christy for your presentation. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So when will this be on the students' menu?
Beginning of next year. It'll be in the high school.
It's really good.
Thank you, guys.
I had to resist the temptation to walk up and make silly morning show banter like you might if this were the Today Show or something.
Trying to do it as quick as possible because I was like, I'll do the Food Show Network whole thing where it's like, oh, well, here you go, here's everything. So thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, our last item on the agenda is regarding district strategic goals and direction.
Sorry, if I could just call a quick audible to do a quick introduction. I'd like to introduce our executive director. Susan Fink has come here tonight. I just wanted to ask you to come on up and maybe just introduce yourself, Susan, and talk about how your first week and a half is gone, or 2 weeks is gone.
Executive director of
the foundation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yay! You caught me eating. Hi, and thanks for having me. Steph's signaling. I feel like I know everybody because I have watched, at this point, 21 hours of the board meetings.
That's one meeting, actually.
It was good due diligence. I care very much about the Shippensburg School District. I graduated from here. And I'm coming back, and I just want to say thank you for having me back. Yeah, I was gone for a long time. And school district matters to me. The statistic, Christy, that you just shared with the 52% makes me sad. I would love for us to grow a vision together with everything that you've done and everything Bill has talked to us about with regard to bringing the entire community to a place where we're going to end up being able to celebrate. I've been in fundraising for 2 decades at this point, and I was a child therapist prior to that. So what I'm bringing hopefully will bear some fruit. Sherry, God bless the work that you're doing, matters to me very much. And, as we move forward, I hope I get to know every one of you. And I hope that we can bring things together with the common denominator always being the kids. That'll be my focus. More to come. I'll look forward to sharing some planning out with you in the coming month or so. And again, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. Sure. Yeah, we're excited for your work, Susan. It's a big piece of the puzzle for us, and we're so glad to have gotten someone with your experience and your passion for our community. So thank you. Now I'm ready. So what's coming up next is something that I've been itching to talk about. This is something that gets me passionate, and is, to my mind is the most important work in the district. It's the work that matters, and it's what we're doing in classrooms with kids, and how we get better, and how we strategically move forward as an organization. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about the strategic directions and goal that we have for the district, and the vision of how we're going to get there. Next slide, please. I can do that myself? Okay, even better. So the first thing I have to say out of the gate is that we are already doing most of these things in our class. So this is not an admonishment or a deficit. We are doing great things in our classrooms, in our hallways, after school hours, to engage kids and get them excited for school and give them a great experience. Our teachers are already working hard. This is about narrowing the focus, making it systemic, making it easier to do the work, and not make it one more thing for teachers. If there's anything that demoralizes a teacher, this is one more thing. My thought process is not to make one more thing, but to simplify and focus on the things we want more of, rather than one more thing. Okay. So for the district coming out of the pandemic, not that these weren't big deal or big items prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic put gasoline on these two areas. That time at home, a lot of kids disengaged, a lot of kids fell off the radar, and there were struggles up and down the line. So our strategic goals are around two areas: engagement and well-being for students and staff. We have to make sure we're taking care of our people as well. I'm a firm believer that if an organization has 10 goals, it has 0 goals. So my job is to narrow us down and get us really, really good at providing and improving these two areas. I think you've seen this graphic. I've emailed it to you previously. This is one of my favorite graphics of all time. It's from the Schlechte Center. The Schlechte Center helps schools and other organizations focus on engaging their constituents. And this is the framework for the type of organization we want to be. It's important that we view ourselves a certain way in the work that we do. This graphic defines roles and mindsets, and most importantly, provides a target for who we're going to be on our best days. I would point out, using my new laser pointer here, the guiding metaphor column, okay? Starting at the bottom, and the title of this graphic is Images of School. How do we think of ourselves? How do we operate as a organization? For schools, we can be one of 5 organizations. Starting at the bottom, we can think and act like a prison where we're looking to house students and correct them and try to keep control. Obviously not a place that we want kids to go to school or we want to be. We can be a warehouse where kids spend their time, they're moved around, and they don't learn a whole lot, and the classroom profile is one of being threatened. The next one is a factory model. Now, it should be noted that when public education started, there were really just 3 models that it was built on. It was built on prisons, it was built on factories, and it was built on churches. One person up front talking, okay? So this is about moving that forward, and we've already made a lot of progress in that, but there can be elements of these and experiences that may mirror that for our kids. The next one is probably where most of our schools and most school districts operate, is that we're a professional service delivery organization where we're well managed and we provide a service that serves a means to an end for our kids to go out to college or careers, and that's not a bad place to live. However, there's another level that we have to get to, in my mind, and that's what these goals are about. They're about moving us to becoming a learning organization more often than we are, okay? We've spent time as the first book we've read as an administrative team is about learning how to improve and what to do and not to do. And every building administrator has been participating in that book study. And my charge to them is to hold each other accountable for how we build our goals to get us there and how we're measuring them and how we make this happen. One of the things, the biggest lessons out of that book that a lot of organizations fall down on is we try to mass implement across a wide system. I've read some research around you really can only change 20% of your organization at any time if you want to be successful. So we're mindful of that, and we need the space and the freedom to be able to iterate and innovate at the local building level. And that is I think, as we get across that top line, the most important thing. So you're going to notice that the classroom profiles is highly engaged, and that's one of our goals. The most important thing about this one to me is that it frames our thinking about our individual roles in the organization. For students, it's about being a volunteer. And if we look at our students as volunteers, they're choosing to be here, that changes our perspective of them. If we look at our parents as partners and members of the school community, which I'd like to think that we do, most importantly, most excitingly to me is the role of teachers. Teachers as lead designers of experiences. And that's where we're going to have to spend a lot of time and effort, because they're already doing great things. But we need to be able to support them when they're designing the kinds of experiences that allow our kids to be highly engaged. Principals as leaders of leaders. And that's what our admin team structure is trying to accomplish by us learning and modeling, being a learning organization, and then implementing the actual research that says how schools improve. For myself, I get excited about this, moral and intellectual leader and capacity builder. That's the role the superintendent wants to do. As a superintendent, I have a very limited reach to be able to control what's going on in an individual classroom. However, I can create an environment where the principals can collaborate with their teachers to make systemic changes within a building. And then lastly, the school board's role is community builder and advocates for schools, which you already are. When I've sent out messages about the Schlechte Center coming in August to do some training, this is what they're going to frame that's going to be the centerpiece of that training for the board. So the first step, and I'm a big believer in change models, and the simpler the better for me. So for me, there's a 3-step change model, and that is, first, we have to have understanding, common definitions, and common vocabulary, and across our system. So when we say engagement, we know exactly what we're talking about in the high school and at the elementaries. The same verbiage is used. Everyone understands what we mean by that. The next step is to get the skills and depth in designing these engaging activities, changing our model to focus on that. We have to practice and get good at that. And then finally, we have to enter the sustain stage. So common definitions, and I'm a big believer in the simpler, the better. For us, and this is right from Schlechte, engagement means students and staff who have high attention and high commitment. In order to achieve that, you really have to talk about human motivation. How do you get someone to be engaged? Well, you got to motivate them. And that means you must give them autonomy, mastery, and purpose. On the well-being side, it's really about being able to learn, which is Maslow's hierarchy, and then be given a situation where you can grow and then you actually thrive. And that really breaks it down into those six areas. We've got to focus on this: the physical, mental, emotional, and safety, as well as belonging and fulfillment for our students and staff. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I think if you ask any teacher on any given day where different students in their class fall, you would probably see students scattered throughout this spectrum, okay? I think we have to have this verbiage to understand that even though a kid may be doing what you want in class, he may be doing the worksheet, he may be doing or sitting quietly, that does not necessarily mean that they're engaged. So we have to be subtle and know the nuances of the difference of these, and have the common language to say, well, they had high attention, but it didn't look like they owned that work. That's not to say that we're going to move away from bedrock fundamental work. There's some work that you have to do, but we have to be intentional about designing the opportunities that get us to that highest level. We do that around, as I said, building the systems, putting systems in place to support these two goals. And I just listed some things that we're going to have to do systemically in order to achieve these goals at the building level. Student voice and choice, that goes back to that motivation. They've got to have some autonomy. We've got to build that into our day. This came out very clearly in the thought exchange for the profile of a grad. Relevance, the work they should do should have meaning, and it should have some connection to the real world or their own lives. We've got to look at our instructional practices and lesson designs. We've got to form connection. We've got to create a system where we're intentionally allowing personal connections to happen, and that we are feedback hungry. Our kids want feedback, our teachers want feedback, and it's delivered because of those personal connections in a way that someone can hear it and take it to heart. And we all work better when we work together. We've got to make collaboration, which is, again, something that our profile of a grad stressed. But we just can't say these words. We have to define what they look like. On the well-being side, our Youth Truth survey is going to give us really valuable data on just where we are on our school climates. And then we've got to think about where are we intentionally teaching kids to be self-aware of their own actions, to be able to manage their emotions, how to build relationships at different benchmarks, and that they be responsible decision makers. I just say it again, that was something that our public said they wanted. We've talked at length about mental health supports. So we need to be intentional about what that looks like and making sure our system is there to support kids, and it is in many ways. Physical health, positive relationships. You'll notice that engagement is on the well-being side because there's a connection between these two. An engaged kid is probably feeling pretty good and wants to come to school. A kid who's feeling good about themselves is probably going to engage at school. So I'm a big believer in, at least in education, that we do backwards design. So we know what our goals are. We know that we have a profile of a grad. And what I've asked and what our time as an administrative team is going to be about is about each building working with their teachers, coming up with a theory of how they can move their building forward and improve those two things. So our summer retreat, our building admin have already started that process and have started to build out action plans. The summer retreat in January 19th and 20th is going to, June 19th and 20th is going to be about us as a team giving feedback on those plans to get them ready for implementation at the beginning of the year. Switching gears, backwards designing, this is why a profile of a grad is so important to us. Because we asked our community, our students and our staff, what skills do you want our students to have? On the right is the word cloud of the biggest words that came up. And these are truly the skills that we're gonna have to design so that they can take their next step. And I've said it before, this isn't just for grades 9 to 12. This is a K to 12 experience that will be taught and mastered. There's a lot of work there to do. But I think, I don't want to speak for Sherry, but I think it's work that we feel good about and excited to get started on. So just a preview of our profile. This came from the work of the outreach committee. We spent a pretty productive evening taking all 1,500 thoughts and narrowing them down and categorizing them into the different components that you see there. Sherry and I, over the course of several days, sat down and put down, and as much as possible, specific skills that we could teach and measure that will help guide our system and guide our teachers to design experiences so that we can, A, make this accessible, and it's not something that stands on the wall, it sits on the table next to the teacher, and that kids understand what they're working on, and that teachers are designing experiences that check these boxes Because if our kids are doing these things, then they're going to be engaged. These are the things that employers want in their employees. What I get most excited about is the possibilities that exist as we build this system. One of the big jobs that we have is a K-12 articulation of these elements, so that we do have that common understanding and vocab. We're gonna have to look at our curriculum, look at making sure that each class that we have has some specifically designed experiences that hit on engagement and the elements in the profile. We're going to have to talk about authentic learning experiences. Ask ourselves, where are they happening? And if there aren't enough of them, then we've got to design them. Student portfolios, this is what I'm particularly interested in. Because I think it's fair to say, if we have a profile of a grad, and someone comes to me and says, Mr. August, what evidence do you have that students or my students has had these experiences? We should be able to show them artifacts and reflections that demonstrate that they've mastered those skills. I really see another possibility of our students having an opportunity to present their portfolios to other people. So once we have these things in place, then we allow our teachers and our admins to riff off and grow off of them, so that we can point to something and say, yes, that aligns, and yes, that is evidence. And then lastly, I threw on there our schedules, which is really the one thing that building admins control, is we control the schedule. So our schedules and our days should, over time, we should be asking the question, does the schedule that we have in our buildings reflect what we need to do with students? So there are already some tools that we have in place that we're using and we will continue to use. That Youth Truth Survey, which closes on the 26th, parents, if you're listening, if you haven't done it, I would ask you to do it, so that we have that baseline data so that we can set goals to improve in a lot of different areas. You've already seen the power of the Thought Exchange survey tool. It's driving us towards a fully functional profile of a graduate. Our professional development will be geared towards those two goals, and the training that our teachers and collaboration time that our teachers need to make that happen. Mentoring and coaching, not only for students but also for staff. This is a great opportunity to look at our clubs and extracurricular activities. How many kids at the high school are in clubs? I believe earlier this year we heard from the middle school. Is one time a month enough for clubs at the middle school, or should we look to be expanding that time? Modeling by administration and principals and teachers about being innovative and willing to take risks. I already talked about our administrative retreat. The building level goals that our administrators are writing are 3-year goals, and we're going to chunk them out over time, because what we're trying to do, we can't do in a year. Anything else without a longer time just doesn't make sense. At some point, we'll be coming back together and working on a strategic plan, which is really going to be components of all the building level plans, so that we have a complete document that is our roadmap to get us where we need to go. Okay, I know that this time goes fast, and I could probably talk some more, but I'm going to stop. Questions from board members?
Not a question, but more of a comment. I appreciate all that. And sitting in those, the outreach committee, 1,500 exchanges, I think is what you said. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of people involved in that too. And seeing all those things, and I took that to heart. I tried to give a good effort into that, and I just think it's a lot of work. But I think it's really identifying, like, how can we improve the overall experience for our kids, and that's why I'm here. So I appreciate it.
I like your table too. I think it really helps to sort of see what is our guiding metaphor. That really, I don't want to be a prison. I would much rather be up there at a learning organization, and to have that column that gives the roles for the board members as well, I think is really useful. It's fine to be boards of directors, but we really should be community builders and advocates, and it's just good to see that in black and white and presented in such a straightforward way.
Yeah, Schlechte is a great organization, and they've got their stuff together, and it's power. You know, I agree 100%. It's about how we see ourselves, to my mind, and what everybody's role is.
And anyone involved with the district can look at their particular column there and say, this is my role in this endeavor.
So I want to thank you for your presentation. I mean, in business school classrooms, organizational development classrooms all over the place, we sometimes make the distinction between management and leadership, whereas management is about compliance, it's about standards for rewards and punishments, it's very transactional. It often involves a kind of thinking about, like, I mean, at least in kind of school administration, I see like, hey, this is the way things were when I was a kid. I want that. Management is critical. We have to manage our organizations to make sure that our resources are used properly and effectively. But it's sometimes so easy to get like stuck in all of the management kind of stuff, all the compliance stuff, that you fail to do the leadership stuff. Because leadership is about vision, it's about engagement, as you said, it's about getting people involved, it's about creating safe and supportive environments for innovation, which means making a safe environment for risk-taking, which is a challenge for organizations. It's particularly a challenge for public education organizations, I think. Anyway, I love hearing you talk about this. I love that you are dedicating energy, you and your team are dedicating energy to a vision for the future, thinking about what education can be, and not merely sort of just trying to keep the trains running on time. We want the trains to run on time, but we need to think about, you know, what our, to carry on the metaphor, what our transportation strategy looks like, and adapt our transportation strategy to modern times. This is important work. It's hard work, but it's absolutely, you know, this is the stuff that gets me excited about being a part of this organization, is thinking towards the future and what we can create. So, thank you.
Listen, it's this is the best part. This is the stuff that we love to do. So, you know, I'm really excited about it, and we're out of time.
I think we are. All right, well, that ends our committee of the whole meeting. We've got like 1, maybe 2 minutes to take a break if anybody needs a break before we begin our regular meeting.
Dr. Lyman, do you mind giving that shirt?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. It's okay.
It's a new record. 4 presentations in an hour.
She's a snack.
What's a snack? Yeah.
I got stuff in my
Wasn't there a girl from Japan? She's actually from Japan.
crossed over with him to Japan. Interesting place.
All right. Call this Planning and Action meeting of the Shippensburg Area School District School Board to order. Roll call.
Mr. Jim Bard. Mr. Levi Kressler.
Here.
Dr. Michael Lyman.
Here.
Mr. Kurt Noggle.
Here.
Mr. Fred Scott.
Here.
Mr. Charlie Suiters.
Here.
Mrs. Becky Wolfinger.
Here.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Here.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Here.
Mr. Aryan Gaunkar.
Here.
Miss Lily Kell.
Here.
All right, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of this school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. A reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. If you'd now join with me in a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students in the Shippensburg Area School District, and to remember Ruth A. Mellott, who was a 1948 graduate and passed away on May 18th. All right, next is our agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Ray Scott, second.
Second by Mr. Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we are to our first citizens comment period. Reminder that there are two citizen comment periods. The first is for any agenda items. So if you'd like to comment on an agenda item, when you come to the microphone, if you'd please identify yourself by your name and indicate if you're a member of the district, if you live within the school district or not. Please address all comments to the board as a whole and make sure they are in the form of a statement. Questions will be taken under advisement. Responses to questions will be offered after due deliberation and will be provided by the superintendent at the direction of the board within a few days of the board meeting. Everyone who wishes to comment is allowed for 3 minutes to make their comment. Comments relative to private student matters or personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate school authority outside of this meeting. I reserve the right to interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement, or if the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. And if I cut you off due to time, please know that it is no personal offense. Definitely want to hear from everyone, but it is because of that we want to be able to hear from everyone and have a timely meeting that we do limit comments to 3 minutes. All right, I'm seeing 3 folks who have specifically asked to comment on an agenda item. Let's start with, oh, I'm sorry, there's more. Oh, there are several. Okay. Jeremy Stauffer.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Stauffer. I'm a resident. I live with these young people every day. First, I'd like to start by saying that any decision made about the Shippensburg University should not include the 2 board members that are employed by the university. It is a conflict of interest. Also, I would like to bring up the fact that why this is even discussed, I'm not sure. Because the last board meeting that these students were here, they were assured that you would continue to work with the Park and Rec as we built the stadium for the next 5 years. I know that some of the board is not interested in sports here at Shippensburg. That was verbally expressed at previous meetings. I will explain how sports work for our student athletes. Our team needs a home. All teams. A home to be proud of, a home to keep integrity for, and to show their pride with color, and a place to protect. Now at this point, the only house they have left, due to the neglect of the school, is Memorial Park. It is not much of a house. It needs love and repair, but it is their house. Their small sand lot of pride, love, memories, and fight. SU is not the home of the Greyhounds, and it will never be. There will be no lights, no bumps on the field that we only know about, no old stories of what happened inside the white lines. You won't see pride, integrity, love, or our school symbols. That stuff all lives inside the fence at the park. Please listen to the students tonight. In fact, don't listen to them, but hear them. The great Hall of Famer Ray Lewis said to his team before every home game, "Who will protect our house?" And his team would respond, "I will, I will." Do not take away our team house to protect. Don't take away their pride. You have over the last 15 years taken everything from the student athletes in this district, except for one piece. It's the only piece that's left. Do not take their last piece. Leave them the sandlot of pride, integrity, love, and fight. Because if you would ask these children right here, who would protect their house, they would all respond, "I will, I will." Thank you.
Just point of note, I did check with our district solicitor. Dr. Lyman and Dr. Goetz are able to vote on any amendment as they are not decision makers on the university side, nor do they receive any financial benefit. So just for the record, they are permitted, and we did check that out, Mr. Stauffer.
Next is, I apologize, Ermina Rotz.
Good evening. My name is Ermina Rotz, and I am the Greyhound Football Booster President. Last week, when this item came about, there was discussion about the pros and cons. A lot of the cons, you know, it was brought up, an item was brought up about the impact to the Booster Club. We would suffer greatly if we were unable to run any kind of tables and sell items at a football game. I know the contract is changing with the university, and I understand there's some discussions to allow us to sell items, but nothing is guaranteed, which again, it's difficult to stand here and say, you know, we're able to support things for the football program, but we want to, but we have to have the funds to do that. You all understand finances, and that funds are sometimes hard to come by. So as the Booster Club president, I do want you to be mindful of the impact to us and our inability to constantly fundraise by asking parents to sell and do more, because fundraising is exhausting, and our parents are quite frankly tired of it. If I know last week when this item was discussed, there was a price tag of $5,000 to use the field. I understand that contract is changing. The university, I saw on the agenda item that the university is willing to cut costs. But my suggestion to you is if you are willing to spend $5,000, then you need to speak to the football program about what they need. As the booster president, I understand that we have a lot of equipment on the practice field that will need to be replaced very, very soon. We are already trying to figure out ideas of how to make up some of those funds to replace that equipment. So if any of you feel comfortable voting to spend $5,000, my suggestion would be to talk to the football program and ask what they need and put that money towards what the kids actually need to play games, to practice, and to win. And, you know, it's not always about winning. There's a lot to be said about their health. Mr. August, your presentation talked about mental health, physical health. Playing a lot of football is not a good idea. The game in question that's being proposed to be played at Seth Grove would come after our Little Brown Jug game. So we would have a game on a Friday, then we would have a game on the following Saturday, and then when we would play a game against Northern the following Friday. That is a lot of football for these young men. They risk injury. They risk losing everything they have worked for. That is extremely taxing on their bodies. And it would be, God forbid any of them got hurt, it would be extremely unfair to sacrifice their health and their bodies for this idea.
Thank you, Ms. Rotz. Your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
We can talk about it all day. If you'd like to, I can talk to you about it all day, but it really, truly is a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Avery Jackson.
Hi, I'm Avery Jackson. I live in Newburgh. I'm a member of the football team here. I just have one thing to say tonight, and that's I and the rest of my teammates do not want to play a game at the university. It would just be like another away game. We don't get that sense of being at a home field. We can't have that pride or anything like that, and overall, it's just not something we want. So, thank you.
Thank you. Chase Holtry.
Hello, my name is Chase Holtry. I'm a sophomore in high school, and I live at 413 William Drive. And I'm opposed to playing on the Saturday at the college game. So part of that is it's really taxing on the players' health. Like Armina said earlier, we don't have enough stamina to go play on Saturdays like that. And the second reason is whenever we play football for high school, it's meant to play on Friday nights. Saturdays are for college, Sundays are for the NFL. It's Friday night football. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holtry. Aiden Faust.
Hello, my name is Aiden Faust. I live at 336 Elmont Circle. I do not want to play at the university on Saturday because I like to spend time with my family and watch my brothers play college football on Saturdays. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faust. Wade Craig.
Hello, my name is Wade Craig. I live at 3095 Orstown Road, and I'm opposed to playing on Saturday because last year we had to play on Saturday against Solanco. It was a playoff game, and there was multiple people missing from the team that were valued, and it also just, if people have to work on Saturdays, how are they going to play football and work? Thank you.
Thank you. Caleb, I apologize if I get your last name wrong. May? I'm sorry. A lot? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Caleb Malott. I live at 18 Noble Drive, and one of the reasons I would not like to play at the college is, one, because a lot of us have lives outside of school and outside of football. We have work on the weekends, family, whatever. And second, Friday Night Lights is pretty much what it's all about. We work hard, extremely hard in the off season to be able to play every boy's dream, Friday Night Lights with a big crowd at our home stadium, and to win and protect. Thank you.
Thank you. Drake Welsh. Thank you.
Hello, I am Drake Welsh. I live at 20 South Penn Street, and I would not like to play football on Saturdays at the college because I work on Saturdays, and I like to spend time with my family and go hunting on Saturdays. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Welsh. Aiden Shoop. Top. Shoop.
Shoop. Shoop.
I'll let you correct my pronunciation.
Hello, my name is Caden Shope. I live at 220 Shady Road. I will be a senior this upcoming season. I've grown up watching football games at Memorial Park and created memories around Memorial. And if I'm going to play one last year of high school football, I want it to be at Memorial Park underneath the Friday Night Lights.
Thank you, Mr. Shoop. Correct me again. Shope.
Shope.
Shope. Anthony Lacchiato.
Hello, my name is Anthony Lacchiato, and I live at 1336 Baltimore Road. And I would be opposed to playing football on a Saturday because it takes time away from our weekend to do other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lacchiato. And Landon Carbaugh.
Hello, my name is Landon Carville. I live at 11552 Omo Road. I've lived in Schmittsburg all my life, and I've only been playing football for 2 years, but playing at Memorial Park under the lights and having the Greyhound stands behind us along with the student section and just Greyhound everywhere is the reason why I like playing. And playing among all these kids and all these adults and all these fans, it's what makes football football. Like, if you go to an NFL game, there's no stands, it's pretty pointless, pretty boring. And I'll be a senior, and I want to make every last moment the best it can be at Memorial Park. You know, even though it's, as you said, it's a house, but it's our home. I mean, it's been there for a while. I haven't been here for a while, but I believe it's where I can actually call football a home. And SU is just college funded by a bunch of people, and high school is just where I've been so far, so I'd rather play it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carbaugh. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on an agenda item? All right, well, I'd like to thank thank all of you, but especially our students for coming and voicing their opinions in regards to agenda items. It's very much appreciated. Thank you for taking the time. All right. Student reports. Ms. Kell.
Thank you. The Special Olympics track and field will be held on Wednesday, May 24th at the Senior High School area track. Juniors and seniors are welcome to volunteer. Environmental Club and AP Physics traveled to Hershey Park on Friday. Graduation is June 1st. I will now be passing the rest of the report to Aryan Gankar. Thank you.
Thank you. The senior trip to Washington Zoo and Six Flags is to be held on May 26th. 10th and 11th graders at the high school interested in the first responding field are welcome to go to the Franklin County Public Safety Training Center to preview the fire and rescue program. Girls wrestling is coming to SHIP. The high school fashion club is holding a clothing drive to donate to Katie's Place. And finally, the Sharps, a local high school musical club group, won second place at the Music in the Parks Festival at Hershey Park.
Thank you.
Just if I may, just want to thank Lillian and Ariane. This is their last student report for the year, so thank you very much for taking the time to come out and help us know what's going on in schools.
I was also going to ask if either of you are seniors. No? All right. Well, then I will not congratulate you on graduating because presumably you are not. All right. Thank you. Franklin County Career Center report? No report?
Meetings this week.
Okay. Great. Safety and Security Committee, I believe, met since our last meeting.
Yes, so the Safety Committee met on May 16th. There are several recommendations that the committee approved to move to the board as a whole and are on tonight's agenda. These recommendations include the district camera project, radios, and a generator. And you may have noticed that the radios request is an action item. This is not typical standard practice, but in order to take advantage of a limited time rebate on $50 per camera, roughly a $4,000 in savings, the committee felt that it was important to be acted on to be able to capture those savings. Just in addition, the Greyhound Foundation held their quarterly meeting on May 17th. And they shared that they received almost $3,000 in donations to the Education Committee in the name of Mr. Burt. That made my heart like super happy because he was a huge advocate for ensuring staff and students had the resources they needed to achieve excellence in education. And the Greyhound Foundation annual golf tournament is scheduled for October 7th, and Ms. Fink attended her first Greyhound Foundation meeting, and it was just great to see her passion and enthusiasm, and she's hitting the ground running.
Terrific. Thank you. Transportation Committee, I believe, also met.
Yeah, the Transportation Committee met this past Thursday, which was the 18th at 8 a.m. We really just talked about some contractual issues regarding transportation providers, and also discussed fuel contracts again. So can't really get into a ton of details, I don't think, at this point. However, that's what we discussed. And yeah, we also, I guess it did briefly come up about the bus patrol program we've talked about, which is like the exterior buses and all those things. I think some bad news came back that the quoted price we were given was actually not accurate. It's more like $30,000 more. So Mr. Bybee's kind of going back to the drawing board, looking for some options on cameras, exterior cameras possibly. But that is it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kressler. The Negotiations Committee also met to deal with some ongoing contract negotiations. Oh, and Mr. August just reminded me to announce that we had an executive session prior to this meeting to also discuss ongoing contract negotiations. All right, I believe we have a curriculum report. Ms. Woodall?
Okay. We did receive our preliminary, oh, it just told me I signed out. Of course. Sorry, y'all. I had everything up and going. All right, here we go. So I've recently received our preliminary funding for federal programs of Title I, II, and IV for the 23-24 school year. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that and seek a little feedback on the direction of where we may go. So the first thing is just to define what Title I, II, and IV are supposed to be for. So Title I is a supplemental education program that provides assistance to LEAs, so Shippensburg Area School District is a local education agency, to improve educational opportunities for our low socioeconomic students that is designed to help students meet standards in math and ELA. Title II is a supplemental education program that provides financial assistance to improve the skills of teachers and quality instruction of core academics. So really that's like a professional development type of funding. And Title IV is a supplemental education program that funds well-rounded education, safe and healthy schools, and the effective use of technology. So during this presentation, I'm going to talk about what we utilized those funds for this year, our preliminary funding for next year, what some preliminary plans are, but where we actually have some flexibility because we've had some increases in funding that I'm not used to having. So just, I don't know what happened with that. There we go. Sorry, Google isn't working great. Just to give a little bit of preliminary information on Title I for this year. So our final allocation, when we look at the federal government, they give us our preliminary allocations for the next school year in usually May, June, but they don't give us our final allocations until January, February. So what that means is they'll tell me, hey, Shippensburg Area School District has this much money in May. I write the grant application and budget based off of that much money that they told me in May, but then in January they say, you have a different amount of money. Most years they decrease me by $8,000, $9,000. One year it was $20,000. This year they only decreased me by $20, so that was great when I had to do the budget allocation. But it just depends. Right now, when they give us the preliminary allocations, it's based off of what the president's proposing for the budget. But the budget doesn't truly approve until later on, so that's why we don't get our final allocations until January. So this year when I got my final allocations, for Title I, it was $858,634. When I had budgeted, and this was, like I said, only $20 less than what they gave me in May of last year. But when we look at what we pay for out of Title I money, so we pay for the Title I teacher salaries, which is $572,937. Title I teacher benefits, which is $252,000, well, roughly $253,000. School PACE license, which is, if you look, I have 3 school PACE licensings. This is because I'm transferring money into Title I from other programs, so I have to split it up based off the program, even though it's all coded to Title I. But it roughly ends up about $25,000. What school PACE is it goes along with our literacy program that we have K-5. This allows students to have access to digital books when they're at home. So when part of the reading program that we have really tries to get students to read for a half an hour during the day at school, but then a half an hour at home as well. And they're taking physical books home, but we also want them to have access to any type of book that they have. So when we look at this $25,000, it gives the students access to thousands of books that they can read on their Chromebooks to help get that half an hour of reading time at home. Then I also transfer money in to pay for iReady, math, and ELA. iReady is an evidence-based program that ESSA, which is Every School Succeeds Act, recommends for school districts to utilize those evidence-based programs when using federal money. Then with Title I, you have to set aside at least 1% of your total allocation for family engagement. You will see I also have in here non-public instruction and non-public family engagement. So with Title I, if we have students that live within the Shippensburg Area School District boundary that are low socioeconomic status but attend a private school anywhere around, that money follows those students. So this year we had 6 students at non-public schools that would fall into a Title I building, either Byrd, Grayson, or SACE, that went to non-public schools. So those non-public schools say we want to participate, they get that money to spend on their students for the same purposes for enhancing reading and math programming. We also set aside $1,000. We have to set aside some money for a homeless set aside. Now, the past couple years, we have had the American Recovery Plan homeless set aside that we've been able to support our homeless students with our homes programs. I think some of you guys have attended those. So this money I've actually just limited to $1,000 because we have that ARP money right now that we're using. So the total amount that we budgeted for was $931,000. We only had $858,000, so like I said, I transferred money in from other federal programs. And this is actually backwards. It should say Title IV transfer was $68,000 and Title II transfer was $47,000. Sorry, I transposed those. I don't know why my thing keeps double clicking. I apologize. Oh, there we go. So now for next year's preliminary Title I funds, we're getting $937,000. So that's about $80,000 more than we had for the 22-23 school year, which is fantastic because that means that I don't have to transfer as much in from other programs. So I went through and I quickly calculated, Christy gives me a much better calculation of our specific teachers, but I quickly calculated in a 2% raise for the teachers because that's what's in the contract. So looking at their salaries, $584,000, and then I calculated a quick cost of increase for the benefits at $257,000. School Pace Connect at $25,000. iReady actually went down when I received a quote, so that's about $56,000. I put aside $10,000 for family engagement. And then the non-public set-aside is going to increase because we've had an increase in funding. So I went through and looked at I did a rough calculation of our low-income students and how much we got per low-income student for this current year, and did a proportional analysis to say, okay, if we have the same number of low-income students at the non-public schools, it would be roughly around $10,650 that they would get. And then the homeless set-aside, because we'll still have the ARP homeless set-aside for $1,000, for a total of $945,000. So obviously that's more than $937,000. But in this case, I'm only transferring $8,000 as opposed to almost $80,000 for this year that I'm having to transfer. So this is where we're going to have some flexibility, and we're going to talk about some different things here. So the Title II funds for this year, we received $120,000, and I transferred $4,700 into Title I, which meant we had $115,000 to spend this year. What we've been doing is we've been working on the Understanding by Design curriculum framework. So you heard Mr. August talking about designing those authentic experiences for students and doing backward design from what it is that we want from our students. That's what we've been working on with our curriculum framework as we go through the curriculum cycle, where we're looking at those authentic experiences. We call them performance tasks. Now, we didn't have the profile of a graduate to align them to. We've been aligning them to the Pennsylvania Department of Education's long-term transfer goals. But when you break those down, they really fall nice and easily into what we have thought of for our profile of a graduate, which is great. That means there's not going to have to be a ton of revisions going forward. We just have to clean up the language that we're utilizing. And we still have 2 more years of curriculum writing cycle before we cycle back to the first year. So it's a 5-year cycle program. We also utilized our literacy program, ARC Core. We had their professional development come in and do some shoulder-to-shoulder PD this year. And then we use Title II funds for class size reduction. We have a class size reduction teacher at James Byrd for 1st grade. We've been trying to reduce that salary over time so we could put that into the general fund so we could utilize Title II money for more professional development type things. For next year, here's where a proposal is, and I want some input from you all. The preliminary allocation for Title II is $132,690. This year, or for the 23-24 school year, the federal government and PDE put new stipulations in for Title II, that any professional development that's being used for Title II has to come directly from the ESSA tiers of evidence. We used the professional development money, like I said, we used about $60,000 this year for the Understanding by Design framework, which is a research-based curriculum framework. But the professional development that goes along with that research-based curriculum framework does not fall in the ESSER tiers of evidence. So I will not be able to use the Title II money for that anymore. So an idea for moving forward is we're proposing in the budget a 2nd grade teacher for James Byrd and a 1st grade teacher for Nancy Grayson to utilize the Title II money to help offset the cost of those 2 teachers and use it for the class size reduction part that Title II can be used for. What that does mean, though, is the curriculum budget would have to be increased by roughly $50,000. Now you're like, well, Sherry, you're spending $60,000 this year. Why is $50,000 for next year? I know that usually the federal government decreases my funding, so I add a little bit extra when I budget. So when I have to decrease it by $10,000 because the federal government says, hey, you actually got $10,000 less than you were supposed to, it's not that difficult. The goal, though, would be eventually to transfer or transition Title II funds to pay for the ESSER coaches in the 24-25 school year. So next year I have 2 coaches, a math coach and a literacy coach that are working K-5 out of the ESSER 3 money. That ESSER 3 money ends next year. So I'd be able to pay for them out of ESSER for next year, then we wouldn't be able to pay for them the following year. Because what they do with the teachers falls into the evidence-based practices, that would fall directly in line with the ESSER tiers that the federal government wants for professional development. So it would be great, and it would also follow along with Mr. August with what we want for our strategic plan to have those coaches with helping the teachers. And looking at some preliminary data, we're not done with our end-of-year assessments right now yet, but looking at that preliminary data coming in, we're coming in close to, in some grades, or at the levels that we were pre-COVID in the grade levels where we have the instructional coaches. I haven't seen the middle school yet. They don't have instructional coaches. They're making gains, but they haven't made as many gains as that K-5 level who have the instructional coaches to help support the teachers in closing those achievement gaps. Now, since we're currently, anytime we're talking about Title I, Title II, and Title IV funds, you have to live by the rule supplement, not supplant. So what that means is if we're currently paying for something out of general fund, I can't next year pay for it out of Title II, Title IV, or Title I. That's called supplanting. But since we're paying for those instructional coaches out of ESSER funds, which is federal funds, I could pay for them out of another federal program. But if we ever pay for them out of district funds, I will not be able to pay for them out of Title I, II, or IV. Does that make sense? I know all these rules with federal, it's taken me 6 years to get all of this stuff in my head. All right, so Title IV. This year we got $68,300 for Title IV. I transferred all of it into Title I to pay for those pre-expenses that we've had set up for Title I. So I've spent nothing from Title IV this year for Title IV activities. Again, this is sort of where I would like your input for how we're going to spend this. So our preliminary allocations for 23-24 is $67,219. Transferring $8,000 into Title I to help that small offset we had in budgeting, remaining $59,000. Now, Title IV does give you a leeway on how you spend that money, but you have to fall within the parameters that at least 20% must be spent on well-rounded education, 20% must be spent on safe and healthy, and no more than 15% can be spent on technology. And that's only if you keep it in Title IV. If you transfer it into another program, you don't have to follow those 3 guidelines. So we did a needs assessment in May of 2021, and it was myself with the title committee, with teachers and family members. And what we have been doing with, when we were looking at what our goals have to be for the district, looking at pre-COVID data for 2021 because we didn't have the PSSAs and things like that because we didn't have the 2020 year. The committee felt that it was necessary for us to be able to fund really boosting up our math and literacy scores, and that was pre-COVID data, so obviously post-COVID those scores went down. After that, the next area that the committee thought was valuable for us to spend Title IV money on would be for career readiness. Out of the safe and healthy, for the needs assessment, the committee felt that it would be great to focus on restorative practices to help with our attendance. So we saw that attendance was an issue, and we thought restorative practices would help to create that sense of community and well-being that would help, that helps align with what our strategic goals are as a district. However, that needs assessment was done in May of 21. Since then, I've heard from the counseling department that they just need more people to be able to meet with students. So safe and healthy money could be spent with, obviously we're not going to get another guidance counselor for this amount of money, but it could help with contracting services. And then no more than 15% could be spent on technology. When we did the needs assessment, it was really looking at how we could use blended learning to engage students and using the station rotation model. So the committee thought that spending the technology money would be beneficial to use professional development contracted through the Lancaster Lebanon IU to help us continue to evolve in that station rotation blended learning model to help with student engagement. That's if we choose to keep the money in Title IV. But if we would like to move it to Title II, we can do that, and that would help even offset more of that class size reduction, and then in the next year, pay for the 2 instructional coaches. So I know that's a lot. I'm not asking for your feedback right now because it's a lot to digest, but it's something that I just wanted you guys to think about, and we can talk about at the next meeting. Are there any questions as of right now?
Jerry, can you send the PDF to us because it's not attached?
Yeah, definitely.
Goldie, I don't know if it's the right time. Building a CCA building in town, is that going to affect us, the curriculum in that?
Oh, it's not going to affect our curriculum, but it is going to affect our students that go to cyber school.
And what, will you anticipate losing more, or what do you anticipate?
Based off of communities where they have buildings already, they allow students to go there to learn. So it's a cyber school that has drop-off capabilities. So school districts that have that, such as like Susquehanna Township, Scranton area school district, areas that I've talked to, they have seen a decrease in building enrollment and an increase in those who go to cyber. Now, I will say that our two cyber coordinators, Chris Tobias and Sarah Gerber, are outstanding at bringing students in, and they really try to get them engaged back in our buildings. But I am concerned that having that building right there may increase our cyber enrollments,
So
our external cyber enrollments.
could that affect our enrollment, what you're telling me?
Our student internal, yes.
It has that possibility,
It
Mr.
could,
Scott.
it could. I'm not going to make predictions
Yeah,
at
I
how
understand.
much, but it could.
And there may be some movement with the state legislature on that, which may be, somewhat of a relief to the budget impact of those. At least that's the hope. My meetings with those legislators left me more optimistic than I've left in the past with them. So
I'm just looking at the class size. Will it make that big a difference on the class size?
I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact right away.
Thank you.
Since you touched on it, when are we planning on doing a presentation? You knew I was going to ask this question.
So it's actually going to be June 12th once all of the once all of the assessments are completely done. I was going to try to jam it in tonight. Yeah, I was going to try to jam it into tonight, but I'm like, I don't have complete data. I still have a couple classrooms that need to finish.
Thank you.
Can you touched on what the money would be used for the counseling department. Can you flesh that out a little bit more?
So, again, they would love to have more people to meet with students. This is not enough money to hire a counselor. So looking at, increasing our services through a contracted agency.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Woodall?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Goetz. Activity fund balance, it's appropriate to report out as a recommended practice the account of activity fund balances. So these are the balances as of March 31st. Senior high is $83,736.42. Middle school has $43,934.79. Intermediate school has $14,041.32. James Byrd has $3,510.11, and Nancy Grayson has $10,047.39. Donation reports, just a few for this evening. The middle school staff and faculty and staff, $557.68 monetary donation towards the PBIS program. Shippensburg area senior high, $743.55 monetary donations from show to support the drama club. So the collection at the show brought that much income. Two quick updates, or at least two additional updates. The board may recall you tasked me with meeting with Shippensburg University leadership and the leadership of the trustees and bringing together the district leadership. That meeting was held on Friday. Very positive meeting. From that meeting, I would just throw out a couple things. One, the university is really just offering the use of the stadium. It's in President Patterson's words, he hopes that it is an organic endeavor that both sides see benefit in. To that point, the proposal or cost sheet changed dramatically. Basically, the university, should the board decide, has zeroed out all costs for the use of the facility as a JV game and a varsity game. The board asked for additional information regarding locker rooms. We would not have locker rooms there. We would be permitted to, the Lions Club or a district organization would be able to use the concession, so they have moving parts too. Their food service department agreed not to have that event for themselves. We would have to provide our normal, public address system, ambulance, chain crews, and there's some additional considerations around goalposts that may not be adjustable. So there's a hurdle of our opponents must agree to play that should the board decide to move forward with this. But from the university's perspective, whether we move forward or not as a board with this, I just want to express my gratitude to Shippensburg for their generosity. And it's not like zeroing out the cost means they don't have any cost. They would actually be taking on those costs if we decided to play there. If that is remember the board voted to table that option, so it's not currently on the agenda. In order to bring that item off the board, off the table, there would have to be a motion, a second. There would be no discussion, and we'd move to a vote. And we would then need to amend that agreement to reflect the latest agreement.
Could you also address the booster sales? That was one of the concerns that was brought up, and also, you talked about concessions, right? Concessions are open to the Lions Club or whomever to sell concessions.
So Booster Club would be permitted to set up a table and sell whatever they would like during that time.
And we're still able to.
We would charge admission to we would, just like we would to any other game. So again, it's just a reminder, this is not on currently on the agenda for a vote. It would have to take board action to take it off the agenda.
All right, so again, if there's a motion to take this off the agenda, then we can vote on that. That's not a motion that requires or that allows for any discussion, but then we could have more discussion on the motion if it was taken off the table.
So at this point,
so you could do that now if you wanted to.
So 3G, new administrating building update. Dr. Moore, can you give a brief update to the board, please?
Good evening, Greyhound School Board team. You have a document at your seat that's entitled the Administration Facility Transition Plan, for lack of a better term. Before I start, I would like to just thank Mr. August for allowing me to be a part of this process and making this transition. And I also want to point out that Troy, Chad, and Christy have also been major players in doing this planning as well. This document is a working, living document. It is not a formal document. It is a draft, and it is a work in progress that we are all contributing towards. But I think I have some good information to provide you tonight. I promise to be brief, but we're making some progress already, and it's pretty exciting, I think. Number one, I do want you to know right off the bat, our top priority is to be able to move transportation, maintenance, and the director of curriculum instruction and assessment and their support staff out of the high school before the start of the next school year. That will allow Principal Luffy and her team to utilize those areas for programmatic issues that the high school sorely needs. So I'm just going to briefly take you down through some of the items that we are dealing with in in May here. And then also, at some point later on, if I'm allowed to give you more of an update, we'll provide some other things that are happening along the way. And again, there's a lot of moving parts to this. And then also, before I start with the enumerated items, I do want you to know that we believe that our maintenance team and some of our students, our top-notch students from our VOTEC carpentry area, can do a lot of this work in-house, and that's pretty exciting. There will be some things that we will have to contract outsiders for, or mostly local vendors, but for the most part, we believe we can do a lot of this work in-house. So number one, if you take a look at the enumerated items, we do need to develop a land development plan and apply for that. The township has been terrific in working with us, and we don't anticipate any issues there. There are several items on the agenda tonight that are related to moving this project along that either you've studied before or you will be looking at here in the next few minutes. Also, I would like you to know that we are working with not just the township, but also with PennDOT. We would like to try to double the parking that we have out there. There's about 16 spaces. Actually, there's maybe even a little more than that, depending upon a certain area there, but we think we can double that. In talking with some of the township supervisors and our liaison at PennDOT, because we are not adding another entrance or an exit, we should pretty easily get their blessing to be able to move that parking lot even closer to the Molly Pitcher Highway. Other commercial properties along that area are closer to the highway than the old, the Burkholder building, the chiropractic center. So we are cautiously optimistic we'll be able to do that once we get the land development plan in place and we move forward with that. I do want you to know that we have met with every member of the administrative team that this impacts, and we wanted to make sure that we're doing this in not just an efficient manner, but a cost-effective manner, and one whereby we have a lot of support from everybody. So everybody that's impacted, that would be, their offices would be moved to the 9318 Molly Pitcher Highway, has actually, with myself and others, have visited and seen the physical space that they have, and we've gotten a lot of good input from the leadership team. We have met with the furniture company. We've developed a scope of work for changing those of you that have been out there and are familiar with this, the garage we plan long-term to change into a large conference room. We have 3 students that are on the agenda tonight. I think it's for discussion, but Todd Swan, the carpentry instructor, has met with us on a couple of occasions. He has given us a scope of work, the materials that would be required to change that garage into a large conference room. And I'm happy to say that we have 3 students that are excellent, outstanding students in the carpentry division at VOTEC. Kyler Wickard, Miles Rowe, and Joshua Burkholter, and we're excited about putting these guys to work out there for us and making this happen. And so they are on the agenda for summer help. Troy, Christy, and Chad, if I miss anything, feel free to correct me on anything. But again, priority-wise, we really want to open up those 3 areas here at the high school and move not only the leaders, but also their support staff, allowing Principal Luffy to move these areas, to utilize those areas. Troy has been working with Comcast, and we plan on getting the district network arranged out there. We've talked about flooring options with carpet and whatnot. Our maintenance team has already started out there changing some counters around, and also there's a couple of walls that need to come down. The one wall that's somewhat interesting is the area where Dr. Burkholter did x-rays. So that wall is it's got a fair amount of lead in there that we have to deal with, but it's not something that's insurmountable. So very quickly, I'm not going to talk about June, July, or August, but I would just very quickly share with you the positions that we anticipate moving out to Molly Pitcher Highway. And that would be the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the director of human resources, the director of technology, the director of curriculum instruction, our registration individuals that are involved with that area, and then all of their support staff. That would be the group that would be out along Route 11. Everybody else then would be coming over to Morris Street at our current admin building. Another thing that we're very excited about, especially Troy and those of us that set up and tear down, is that we hope eventually to make the large conference room over at Morris Street, taking down the one wall. We plan to make that a permanent school board meeting room, as well as a room that would be available for our community to use as well. So I think that's a real win-win. Any general questions for me at this point?
Thank you. I appreciate this. I've been waiting to see exactly what we're talking about. I do appreciate the size and everything that it fit. That takes a big load. I guess there's another coming down the road. There's something on the agenda later on about it.
I'm sorry, Fred, could you talk into the microphone?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I appreciate the schematics that's here for because I've been wondering. Everybody said it's fit. Now I know it's possible it can fit. So I do appreciate that. And I guess there is something down on the agenda about costs, some other things down there.
There's a land development item for discussion.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. And also, I know not everybody was able to make the tour when we went out there some time ago. If any of you would like to do that, we have keys now. We own the building, and so I'm happy to escort you out there and check it out and get. If you have any very specific questions, I'll do my best to answer those. And if I can't, Christy, Troy, or Chad certainly can. Anything else to add, Chad? Thank you.
Wow. So you're saying at the Morris Street location that school board meetings are going to permanently move over there? How are we going to manage that parking?
I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds, but eventually what we would like to do is tear down the one wall, if you know where Tammy Pritchard currently sits, that Chad tells me that's not a weight-bearing wall, and there are strategies we can do to remove that. We believe for the vast majority of board meetings that would accommodate our needs. When there's other situations where we anticipate a good crowd or whatever, obviously we would need to either come over here or to the auditorium or some other location.
I'm not concerned about the space in the actual building to hold a meeting. I'm concerned about the parking.
But don't forget, we have Grayson as well. So,
thank you.
Is that it for Superintendent?
It is. Just other than say thanks to Al and the team for that work.
Indeed. Thank you all. All right, well, on to our lengthy consent agenda. Item 4A is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Item 4B is the finance report. 4C, mobile ag ed science lab agreement for the intermediate school. This is a sort of continuation of this program, a renewal of the program. 4D, request to form a debate club. 4E, licenses for coding courses at the high school. Recommendation to approve the attached renewal with Code Combat to purchase 50 licenses to be utilized in coding courses at the high school. Item 4F is Therabilities agreements, which are agreements to provide occupational and physical therapy at the high school. Item 4G, Capital Area Intermediate Unit School Age Special Education Services Agreement. Item 4H is the contract renewal with Soundtrap, which is a music department, I believe, software program. Item 4I is the purchase of textbooks for the high school. Administration recommends approval to purchase the following textbooks for the VOAG classes: small animal care and management, as well as agribusiness management. The cost for both textbooks will be funded by the curriculum budget. Item 4J, future fund balance commitment. For the fiscal year closeout, administration recommends approval to allow the business administrator to assign additional future commitments of the present fiscal year to unassigned fund balance, subject to any audit adjustments. Item 4K is the authorization for payment of bills for June and July, various bills. Item 4L, authorized signatures for district funds. Administration recommends the approval of the attached list of authorized signatures. Item 4M is a revised job description. So you may remember that in the last meeting, an approval was made to hire for this job, and now there's for the transportation. Is this the one? The transportation.
Just a revision to that to add those duties.
All right, so revisions made to the job description for the transportation secretary. This is not what I was thinking of. Item 4N is flexible instruction days. Administration requests approval to apply for the possible utilization of up to 5 flexible instruction days during the upcoming 3 school years. Flexible instruction days will be called as early as possible by the superintendent and will follow a 2-hour delay schedule to allow families planning time. Flexible instruction days will have a combination of synchronous and asynchronous activities throughout the day. Item 4O, act 80 days on the upcoming school calendar. Administration recommends permission to add act 80 days on August 24th and 25th for kindergarten students only. This is just for the kindergarten, right? And,
Yes.
and has
Yes, sir.
to do with the previously board-approved staggered start of kindergarten for the upcoming school year.
I thought we didn't have to change the calendar.
So what Martha, our PIMS coordinator, found is that if we did it without changing the calendar, we would have to go through and give all the students that were not assigned to group, let's say group A on B day, they would have to all get excused absences, which is sort of a management nightmare. By just saying kindergarten has an Act 80 day, it's an allowable thing for kindergarten, where kindergarten students only are allowed to have that extra day to get acclimated to coming to school.
So it's really a different path, 2 different paths to the same thing.
We weren't allowed to do that the other way.
We were. It just would be a lot
It's a logistical.
individual. Every single person we would need to either blanket or get excuses from. So this is a much more efficient way to do the same thing.
It's a bureaucratic strategy to
Yes.
get us there. All right, is there a motion to approve items 4A through item 4O?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolfinger. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. And I should have asked earlier if anybody wanted to take any of these items separately.
I wanted to take item N separately, please, the flexible instruction days.
All right, so let me back up a little bit. We're going to take item 4N separately. Is there any other that we would like to take separately?
4M.
4M. Okay, so 4M and 4N. Any others? All right, so let me start over.
Mr. Scott, did you say M or N?
M is a Mike.
Mike and then N, okay.
Yeah. So now, Dr. Lyman, if you wouldn't mind, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 4A through 4L and 4O. Will you make that motion?
I will.
All right, motion made by Dr. Lyman.
I will second it.
There is a second by Ms. Wolfinger. Is any discussion on these items? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 4M, as in Mike. Is there a motion to approve item 4M?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Eberly,
Second.
second by Ms. Wolfinger. Discussion.
Yeah, it's the transportation secretary is now going to get more work, more responsibility.
So this is the routing question, Mr. Scott. So routing is our bus routes are done by our transportation provider. There's a cost to that. So, and has a bit of a problematic problem because it's then they're deciding routes for other providers. This brings us in-house and allows us to do our own routing, which is, I think, my understanding, more typical of districts to do it that way. But it's not in the transportation secretary's job description to do that, so we need to modify it to allow her to
Number
do it.
one, since I've been on the school board, I see a tendency of dumping on secretaries, giving them more work than what they're really supposed to be doing. So this job here, is she going to be trained in it, or well?
They already have, to my understanding, Mr. Bybee and Paula have training on it as within the system, and feel. My understanding is they want this task to be included in their purview.
As a request from the transportation department, they are already familiar with that software.
All right, so, okay, as long as the secretaries.
Yeah, Mr. Scott, we're not dumping on them. They want this.
All right.
Is it special needs and?
They didn't. My understanding was the whole boat was going to come back in. They didn't differentiate that, Mr. Suiters.
Big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge difference.
That's what I'm wondering. You said they want it and they understand it, so there shouldn't be any problems, correct?
We don't foresee any. Like I said, I think they're very eager to have that in-house.
Okay.
And this is a cost savings for us, too.
A slight cost savings based of the 45,000, I think, or 46 we pay now. I think the proposal, I think this was going up for next year through the negotiations.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, item 4M, motion to approve item 4M?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, item 4N, the flexible instruction days. Is there a motion to approve item 4N?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman, second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion?
So last year, we had 3.
Are you talking about this current school year?
Yes.
No, that's okay,
Like,
because
I already think
I'm
we're
living
done
in
here.
3 years right now. I'm living in 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24, so I have to. So 22, 23 school year. I believe 3 were called district-wide and 1 was called for the high school power outage, so we used 4.
We only, how many, did our calendar say 5 or 3?
5.
5. So what's the change?
It's not a change. I just have to reapply.
You have to
for
reapply
them
every-
every 3 years.
I'm just really empathetic with the families of littles and that are, going to daycare and to grandparents' houses who don't know how to use Chromebooks and then are expected to round them up to get them in front of computers. I'm very empathetic of those families when we're talking about 52% living in poverty and we knowing that those families are also working and the struggle of attendance to try to get some of them here physically and then to have them log in to a computer and then families having to go to work and then making sure that their work is complete. I mean, it was okay, we're getting past this virtual time, COVID is over, and I would much rather see these kids getting back to good old-fashioned snow day and stop relying on the Chromebooks so much.
And I understand that. I will say that when we actually applied for the flexible instruction days to first be used, it was actually before COVID. So we were looking at this, and the state was looking at this as options for schools prior to COVID. So.
And there is no requirement to use them. Each day has its own kind of case-by-case basis for what makes sense.
Mr. August gets to make that decision.
Well, but I think when we have the ability to do it, then it's easy for us to do it. If it's not there, then you can't do it, right? And I think I would echo everything that Steph said and also add that when we are still working on closing the learning gap, even if it is 5 days, 5 FID days, that is still putting our students at a disadvantage when they cannot have synchronized learning with their teachers face to face. So, I mean, I definitely, I would rather them have a day to just go out and play in the snow and be kids.
A mental health
A
day.
mental health day, absolutely. I just can't, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just my students were not successful with the whole virtual side of things. And I mean, talking with as many parents as I have in the last couple of years, a lot of our students are still fighting through, what we did to them.
Well, it seems that one possible solution here, right, is that this provides flexibility for administration to sort of make the call. It seems that there are some situations like the power outage at the high school where the flexible instruction day was beneficial in a way that, just canceling school might not be. Right? So it seems that as a board, we could certainly give administration guidance about when we feel it appropriate to have a flexible instruction day, but if we don't approve them, then there is no flexibility.
I think, though, even taking it a step further, I mean, have we had a conversation to ask the teachers' opinions on this? Because I can tell you, I was in the school when some of these FID days were getting ready to be called, and, they're scrambling to try to put lesson plans together for students then. And I mean, the ones I spoke to would much rather us just have a day off of school. So, I mean, have we got the feedback of the teachers on FIB days?
Yeah, well, actually, when we did contract negotiations, that was part of the contract negotiation with how we do FID days. So when you look at the Teachers Association contract, it talks in there about how we give them time at the beginning of the year to prepare their FID days and their FID lessons and things to that extent. So, and that all came from sitting down with the teachers and negotiating through that with the contract.
Do we still schedule a certain number of, for lack of a better word, snow days that would just be not a FID day, but blank snow days that we don't have to make up in June?
We have 3 snow days built into the
So we have snow days, and we're looking for 5, or what's the number again?
5. The state
Up to
allows you
5.
use
Up to
up
5 FID
However,
days.
this year, we ended up using our FID days prior than just using our snow days. So, I mean,
Yeah, so as a parent, I would much rather have school end when the calendar says it's going to end than have to make up days. So that's why I like the FID days, because we don't have to make those up in June. I'd much rather have a June day than a snow day.
Yeah, and to that point, not all school days are necessarily equal. A day in June may not be as productive as a day in December, or even a FID day in December. Three make-up school days is not a ton, depending on what kind of winter we have. This gives us some flexibility to not move the end of the year calendar.
So if the practice then is, and let me just ask you, is this the intention then, that you use your snow days until you run out of snow days that are built in, and then you do
So the timing of these things can be important. If there's a, so it's 6 one, half dozen the other sometimes. If the canceled day is too close to a scheduled day or snow makeup day that people are expecting to be off, then people have already made plans, and then they have to scramble, and then we can tend to see lower daily enrollment on those days. So depending on when they fall, if it's too close to it, you're talking about disrupting travel plans for people around holidays or other events. So I mean, I don't have any numbers to say that that's a thing, but that's something I've talked to other school administrators or superintendents about, and they're cognizant of if this falls too close to the makeup day somebody else had in, and that becomes a problem then too.
All right, any other comments? All right, Ms. Lentz, would you mind roll calling on this item?
Mr. Levi Kressler,
No.
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
No.
Mr. Fred Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Charlie Suiters,
No.
Mrs. Becky Wolfinger,
No.
Mrs. Steph Eberly,
No.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Yes.
3 yes, 5 no. Motion failed.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz. All right, and then to item 4P, which is personnel. So you will see a number of new appointments for professional staff, support staff. There are resignations under the support staff, and lots of new appointments. And I am not going to read through all of those. So is there a motion to approve item 4P?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Eberly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that brings us to our action agenda. Item 5A is resolution amending section 672.1 of the school code for the multi-county school districts. At the May 1, 2023 Budget and Finance Committee meeting, administration presented information to the board regarding lost revenue for multi-county school districts due to language in current legislation used to equalize millage rates between counties in the 88 multi-county school districts in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials has and continues to advocate for legislative changes to this law in order to help PASBO advocate for multi-county school districts. Administration recommends approval of the attached resolution urging an amendment to section 672.1 of school code regarding mandatory millage rebalancing requirements. I'm sure all of you, like me, first budget and finance season, became frustrated and like lots of question mark thought bubbles when the sort of tax thing county to county doesn't make sense. So this is a resolution we're joining a group of, should we approve it, joining a group of other school districts to ask the state legislature for change in regards to how this is managed. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger.
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5B, Shippensburg Community Parks and Recreation Authority lease agreement. Administration recommends the approval of the 2-year lease agreement with Shippensburg Community Parks and Recreation Authority to lease Memorial Park Stadium. The lease will run from June 1 of this year through May 31st of 2025. A copy of the lease is attached. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion?
So when it comes to, the SU facility agreement we had, it had at the bottom of it regarding the ADA compliance. That is not on this one. And if we're talking about possibly the Lions Club renovating the bathrooms, which means that you would have to be ADA compliant, like how is that addressed? Like as far as like who's
So my understanding is that we did talk about an indemnity clause in that agreement that would indemnify us from those complaints in so much as we can be. That's where we play football. That's our home stadium at this point.
Any other discussion?
I said it 2 weeks ago. I'll say it again. Just thanks to Josh. I think he worked really hard on that, back and forth. Also, Ms. Fannis, our athletic director, was involved with that. Some bumps on the road, but everybody got a good deal at the end, and the kids benefit from that. So,
True negotiation, right, Josh?
Yeah, I'd also like to thank our, Parks and Rec Authority and their director and all of those involved with the negotiation to come up with an agreement and a 2-year lease, which I think is in a much better position than what we have been as we sort of work forward in developing our own athletic facilities.
And no offense, Josh, we'll be glad not to have to talk to you next year.
Sorry, Josh, I did see that it's number 6 in here. Sorry.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve item 5B?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, item 5C, Knowledge Matter licenses for new course at Sashus. Administration recommends approval to purchase a 3-year license from Knowledge Matters for the newly approved Sports and Entertainment Business course at the senior high school. Cost will be $1,795, paid out of the curriculum budget. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
Red Scott, a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5D, Comcast Enterprise Services. Administration recommends the approval of the contract with Comcast Business to connect the new administration office building to our current wide area and data network being provided by Comcast. This will allow the building to be used to use our current phone system, connect to our data network, and have access to the internet. This is a short-term contract due to the expiration of our current contract, and whenever the area-wide data network is up for rebid, this will be part of that bid process. Once this contract is board approved, Comcast will put us on their installation queue and be able to give us an installation timeline. Cost has been added to the technology budget and the contract is attached. Is there a motion to approve item 5D?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger,
Second.
second by Dr. Lyman. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5E, change order for East Coast Contracting. So the administration recommends the approval of the following change orders for the middle school additions. You can see that's about a $20,000 cost. The above change has been reviewed by Mr. August, Ms. Lentz, and Mr. Kreitz. Description of the changes are attached. And if I'm not mistaken, this should be the last.
So we are completely inside now, and so much of the surprises that we were finding as we were digging the foundation and looking at the drainage should be behind us.
All right, is there a motion to approve item 5E?
Red Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Any discussion?
So just to clarify, I remember there is a budget item for these things, right? So if we ever go outside of the budget, we would be informed of that somehow?
Absolutely,
Is that right?
Dr. Lyman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5F, policies for second read and approval. The following policies are being presented for second read and approval. Mr. August, I remember that there might have been one or two that you wanted to pull from this. Were those already pulled?
Yeah, there was one that needed some more work and some more discussion.
Okay. So these are items that we've already seen on the discussion agenda. They've already come through the policy committee as recommended to the entire board to be approved. Is there a motion to approve item 5F?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Everly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion?
Just thanks to everybody who slogs through those. I mean, I'm on the committee, but I don't do most of the work there, and there are a lot of wonderful people who do. So,
Slog is a good description,
Yeah.
Dr. Lyman.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5G, repository sale consent. This we have seen before. The Tax Claim Bureau of Franklin County has notified the district of a property that is no longer in a tax generating status because the parcel has been placed in the county repository. The property has been offered for upset sale and judicial sale, but did not receive any bids to satisfy the municipal and/or school tax obligations that were owed on the property. In order to bring the parcel back to tax generating status, the parcel must be sold. Therefore, the Tax Claim Bureau is requesting that the Board of School Directors provide their consent to sell the property for the repository bid price of $105. Is there a motion to approve item 5G?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Everly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5H, appointment of the tax collector. The district has received notification from the Borough of Shippensburg that they are no longer able to collect the district's share of real estate and per capita taxes. Administration recommends appointing Marianne Shirk as the tax collector for the Borough of Shippensburg. that is both the Borough of Shippensburg, which resides in both counties, for the upcoming school year. This appointment is dependent upon board approving the district not collecting per capita taxes, which we've already done. Ms. Shirk may continue to collect the district's real estate taxes in future years based on her experience or until this position is filled at municipal election. Is there a motion to approve item 5H?
God, make a motion to approve.
All right, so I heard Dr. Lyman over here and mumbles over there. So motion made by Dr. Lyman, second by Mr. Scott.
It was Mr. Suiters who actually made the motion.
Oh, it was Mr. Suiters. Well, I apologize. Okay, motion made by Mr. Suiters, second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5I, 23-24 Capital Technology Outlay. At the April 11th Committee of the Whole meeting, administration presented the fiscal year 23-24 Technology Capital Outlay Fund Balance information to the board. Administration recommends approval to purchase the items listed below in the amount of $668,600. In order for these items to arrive in a timely manner to allow the district time to have the items ready for use for the start of the upcoming school year. And you can see there that these are for Chromebooks and Chromebook cases for the high school, middle school, well, intermediate school, and then some other technology that will be applied district-wide. Is there a motion to approve item 5I?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman,
Fred Scott, second.
second by by Mr. Scott. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Oh.
So, do I say aye too? Like,
Say nay. You say nay.
Nay.
All right. Ms. Lentz, could you roll call, please?
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
Yes.
Mr. Fred Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Charlie Suiters,
Yes.
Mrs. Becky Wolfinger,
No.
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Yes.
Mrs. Steph Eberly,
No.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Yes.
6 yes, 2 no, motion carried.
Thank you, Ms. Lentz. Item 5J, schedule of fees for athletic events. Administration recommends the approval of the 23-24 admission prices for school district athletic events. The list is attached. Is there a motion to approve item 5J?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Eberly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion?
Yes. There was a discussion earlier this summer, or this school year, about some parents paying to go into the tracks while baseball and the other schools, other events are not collect. Our policy is, people need to know the policy is if it's enclosed, there's a payment. If it's not enclosed, no payment. I had several people that discussed that with me. They had to pay to go see their kids at the track. The baseball field and the soccer and the rest of it was free. So I just want the people to know about that when we go to fee, we have a policy where it's enclosed, you have to pay a fee to get in.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5K, Franklin County Career and Technology Center roofing project. You may remember that April 27th meeting, the Joint Operating Committee discussed and approved a replacement of the annex roof due to an increase in leaks and it being beyond repair. This is the original roof from 1978. The Board of School Directors of the member school districts are being asked to provide funding for this replacement per the attached resolution. Our district's monetary share of this project is $184,920, in addition to any change orders. I think that summarizes it all right. Is there a motion to approve item 5K?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Fred Scott, seconds.
Second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5L, contract with Three Monkeys Inflatables. Administration recommends the approval of the contract between James Byrd Elementary School and Three Monkeys Inflatables for their PBIS Celebration Day Carnival on May 26th. Cost is $1,333. I assume that's not a coincidence. It's the three threes with the three monkeys. I don't know. Is there a motion to approve item 5L?
So moved. I want the
Made by
motion.
Ms. Wolfinger,
Second.
second by Dr. Lyman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5M, radio replacements quote. Administration recommends the approval of the quote from Triangle Communications to purchase 82 Kenwood DMR radios for the district at a cost of $66,106.61. If purchased, shipped, and invoiced by June 30th, the district will receive a $50 mail-in rebate for each radio. You heard Ms. Eberly just explain that it was the Safety Committee's recommendation that we approve this as a sort of urgent matter without it previously being on the discussion agenda in order to take advantage of the mail-in rebate. Is there a motion to approve item 5M?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Suiters. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Eberly. Is there, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5N, operations maintenance contracts. Administration recommends the approval of the following service agreements, which are attached. The first is from Daikin as a 3-year renewal agreement with Daikin to perform preventative maintenance on the chiller at the high school. And the second is RJ McCarville, 3-year agreement to inspect the bleachers at the high school and the middle school. Is there a motion to approve item, what are we on, N? Item 5N?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger,
Brad Scott, second.
second by Ms. Eberly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5O, inflatable obstacle course. Administration recommends the approval of the request from the middle school to rent a 45-foot nuclear obstacle course inflatable from Strauss Entertainment for the school's end of the year PBIS celebration. Cost of $737. Is there a motion to approve item 5O?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Any discussion? Nuclear, I assume, is not an adjective there, but a proper noun.
I think it might be a description of the theming of the obstacle course.
I hope it's a
Sounds
figurative adjective rather than a literal adjective. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, we are now to the discussion agenda. The first is in regards to the district camera purchase. We've received proposals from several different companies, and administration recommends the approval of the proposal with Triangle Communications for a cost of $370,000 and some change. Any questions on item 6A?
Is this a Vigilon? Is that the one you guys ended up going with?
I believe it's triangle.
Triangle. It was the second quote we received.
Okay.
This will be paid in part from grants and other funding sources, not necessarily outside funding sources, but our budget. Item 6B is a resolution calling for the revision of the current payment structure for cyber charter school students. So this is, again, not necessarily an action that we can take, but it's a request for the legislature to take action. The board may wish to adopt the attached resolution to meaningfully revise the current payment structure for cyber charter school students to provide relief to local school districts and taxpayers. Any questions, comments on item 6B?
This is a good bill, and I would encourage all of us and anyone in the community to contact your legislators who are relevant to this bill, and it would provide a lot of financial relief to our district if this were to be revised as proposed. So,
Thank you, Dr. Lyman. Any other comments? Item 6C is a MOA between the district and an SAESA. This is the Shippensburg Area Educational Support Association. Changed the pay level classifications for 2 secretarial positions due to changes in job responsibilities, and the MOA is attached. Any questions on item 6C? Okay, item 6D is an agreement with New Story for special education services. New Story School provides a private licensed school in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. New Story provides educational services to children with special education requirements. Proposed agreement is for 1 student for the current year, or is this supposed to be for the next year? This is 22-23.
It's 23-24.
All right, so that should probably be for the
I'll
upcoming school year?
So I'm assuming that is correct as written.
I'm gonna double check.
We're going to double check just in case, because
Okay. Any questions on this item? Wow, it's so much more quiet now. Ms. Woodall, when you have an update, you can just interrupt. Item 6E, the mobile ad ed science lab agreement for James Byrd Elementary. Administration recommends the approval of the mobile agricultural education science laboratory. I've seen their trailer hanging out in the parking lot of James Byrd for the past week, and my wife's comment when she saw it was, "That's cool." So I agree. Any questions about the mobile ag ed science lab? Item 6F, Greyhound paw print.
Sorry, the agreement is actually for the remaining part of this year.
Oh, it's for the remaining part of this year. Okay, thank you. Paw print sculpture project. Administration recommends approval of engaging the services and craftsmanship of Dr. Steve Dolben of Dolben Structure Hatchery Studio to produce a stainless steel sculpture of a greyhound paw print to promote school spirit and school pride. Sculpture will be approximately 72 inches, 72 by 48 by 12, and be placed at the rear entrance of the high school. Cost of the sculpture will be $4,800 and will be paid for by the class of 2023. Any questions or comments about that? I'll just say I'm excited about it. I love the sculpture that we have in the front of the high school, and I'm excited about this one, and want to express my appreciation for the gratitude of class of 2023 for adding something of their legacy to the district. All right, item 6G, updates to athletic job titles. Administration recommends updating athletic job titles to the SAEA contract to align with PIAA titles. And you can see there the information that shows the current job titles and the recommended PIAA titles. Any questions, comments there? Item 6H, athletic training agreement. Administration recommends renewing the 5-year contract with Shippensburg Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. The new contract will expire July 31, 2028. Contract is attached. Any questions, comments on that?
So are they supposed to supply 2 trainers for us or just 1?
I believe the agreement is for 1, Mr. Scott.
Just for 1? I thought we agreed for 2. They'd get 2.
I can check into that, Mr. Scott.
Didn't we?
I think there was 1 and then a part-time.
Yeah, there's about 2, but we only have 1 so far.
I'm not real sure on it, but I thought there was a part-time.
I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Item 6I, operations and maintenance renewal agreements. Administration recommends approval of the following renewal service agreements, which are attached. Water treatment by design for water treatment, and FMX, 1-year renewal contract with FMX, the company that used district-wide to schedule school, community, and athletic events. And then RJ McCarville Associates, 3-year renewal contract for inspections of the basketball backstops at the high school and the middle school. Any questions on those renewal agreements? All right, item 6J, generator for the high school. Administration recommends approval of the proposal with GR Spanagle to purchase and install a diesel generator for the high school. Attached proposal is dated November 14th of last year, and the district will need to add 5% to the initial proposal cost. This amount would be, so the additional amount would be just over $19,000, making the final cost of the generator $407,000, and will be paid for from assigned to fund balance for capital maintenance. Any questions, comments on the generator?
Just a question on the generator size. How did we come to the determination of the 500 kilowatt?
Chad, can you speak to that?
We can hear you.
We just, they wanted a generator size big enough to expand on and to take on our kitchen equipment, most of the school, and our heating and air conditioning system, and to take on 3 of our switch gears. And that's what the guy came in and recommended to put in.
Okay, so you guys laid out the specifics.
Yeah.
So if we lose electric, we could run part of the school, but we would probably send the kids home, wouldn't we? If those kids are here, or is that what would you do?
It would be up to the superintendent, of course, but we would be able to keep them here and keep you could use your laptops, you could use everything like that. This side of the school will be totally under power, we'll have our lights. The other side of the school is eligible to be, added on to. So not every, and it does have emergency power also, and it'll control everything. The students would still be here.
So depending on what the disruption is, Mr. Noggle, we would make that call whether we could stay. Obviously, if we're on generator power, we're kind of pushing our luck.
The only reason I asked that is, if we wanted it back up for the freezers, refrigerators, things like that, we've gone how many years? It's a pretty big number to come out of our budget.
It is, but I think, we spent a FID day when the power went out, and I think we've had several days that the power's gone out at the high school. That in talking with Chad, that the generator there is beyond its life expectancy. Is that safe to say, Chad?
Oh, yeah, well beyond. And keep in mind, this is the only school that we don't have a really good backup in. All the rest of the schools currently are backed up pretty well.
I just saw it as a place maybe.
Yeah, it's a big number, no doubt, Mr. Noggle, and unfortunately, I think.
It's a big number, but honestly, I thought it would be bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the diesel came in. I don't know if you remember the first time we went through this. Even the natural gas was, I think that was well over $690,000.
And the board may recall from the GISA project pullout that we did decide not to put the redundant line in. So there was some cost avoidance there that, I
I was
think.
going to say, I thought this was a cost savings, right? Because
That was.
rather than having the redundant line, we've decided to go with the generator.
Yeah, I did talk.
Yeah, so I don't know that the redundant line covered all of this, but I think it, in the budget path, certainly.
Yeah, the initial quote was over 600,000, Chad. Yeah, it was like 630 something, yeah.
That's all. Thanks, Chad.
Yep. I'm saying yep for Chad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thanks for asking the questions. Item 6K, Land Development Plan. Administration recommends approval of the proposal from R. Lee Royer and Associates to perform a land development survey and check the current septic system on the new property that the district has acquired. And you have the cost there for checking the land development, $5,000, septic system, $1,000.
So the septic system, we could end up paying more if we had to get a bigger septic system, correct?
It's hard to say, Mr. Scott. If we're checking to make sure that the septic system will work. I mean, I think when we were dialoguing about purchasing the property, we talked about some of these checks that would be needed to be built in. We don't anticipate having septic problems, and this will allow us to make sure where we stand. But the initial evaluation was that we were okay.
Keep in mind, sorry, I got it working now. Randy got it for me. But if we hit that septic system now, it will, if we were to ever do anything else in the future, it's an additional $1,000 to locate that septic system and get it on our current design. So if you were to ever do anything else in the future, if we would have to come back and locate that septic system, it would probably be $6,000, $5,000 to do that. So this is kind of like a throw-in thing that is like a target of opportunity that's at a pretty good price to get that added onto.
Is this to tell us this because the present system was made for a dentist's office. Now we're bringing all these people in. So we're going to find out if this present system is capable, or we may have to expand, correct?
I don't think it will actually check that the size is good. It's just going to put it on a location and make sure that like our seepage field and everything's good. I mean, so he might be able to figure it out out of what he does. But I mean, he's not going to have the numbers of how many people we're putting in the building anyhow. So to figure that out, we might be able to take the size of the septic system at that point and then compare it to the amount of people we expect in there. And that could probably get us what we need as far as telling if it's big enough.
Well, that's my septic system I dealt with. Its capacity makes a difference in the size of the field. And so if he got the septic system he has in place now is for 6 or 7 people, and we're moving 12 to 14 people, that's going to make a difference.
It's definitely something we really need to look into and find out about.
Is this part of that?
It's worth it.
Is this worth finding?
This is the first step of that, Mr. Scott, for us to be able to locate and answer that question.
What do you mean locate? We don't know where it's at?
When you're talking land development plans, you need to have exactly. You can't just say it's here. They need to see it on like how far it away is from the building, how far away it is from your property lines, how far away. Like you need to get it within.
It's a precision location.
Yeah, you need to get in within tenths of an inch to make a proper land development plan.
All right, item 6L, furniture for the new administration building. Administration recommends the approval of the attached furniture quote for the new administration building. Costs not to exceed $53,000 and change. Be assigned, paid for by the assigned fund balance. I believe that like there's some kind of lead time needed in ordering this, which is part of why this is coming up now, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I mean, we may be because of the timing of them. I know Mrs. Lentz recommended it went to action, but given we don't want to get in that habit unless we absolutely have to. So there will be some potential lead time issues, but we're going to try to work through those.
Item 6M, District Registrar Job Description. Administration recommends the approval of the creation of a job description for the District Registrar. This position will serve as registrar and receptionist. And I think this is the one that I was confusing with the earlier, right? Will you describe what this and actually item 6N to the business office assistant job description. The administration recommends approval to the revisions made to that job description. Mr. August, will you talk about both those quickly?
Sure. The business office assistant, and Christy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a full-time position to assist in the business office and help the workload there. We need a full-time registrar year-round, particularly through the summer. So this is I believe, a half-time position?
Part-time.
Part-time
Year-round.
position year-round to handle both the front desk and, as folks come in over the summer to register their students, that would be their role.
Questions on either of those items? All right, moving right along. Covering a lot of business. So we are now to our second citizens comment period.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I asked for Chad to be here tonight. Can I ask him some questions before we move to citizen comments, please? Or is that a place? I
Regarding-
I'd like an update on the junior high, the athletic field, and some maintenance field. We're doing the junior high. I haven't heard anything about it.
So, Mr. Scott, we can certainly do that at a committee of the whole. Have Chad come and do an update. I mean, what I can tell you is the middle school project is on time. They've picked up. They were a little bit behind because of all these change orders and issues. They've since made up that time, and we expect to be taking possession of the building in time for the opening of school. So that's like super good news, but we don't want to jinx it. So that project's on pace, and we're moving through the financial side of the next project with the athletic facilities upgrades. We recently got the bond rating, talked about, and so that was some good news on that front. So we need to wait for that, and we'll start design once that financial piece is set. EI has met with the middle school and the high school to kind of look at program needs for those two, the finishing off of the middle school, and then the high school proposed renovations. That's the step after the athletic facility. So we'll continue to meet to try to align the program needs with the building needs. So we're really getting down to the schematic design part, but we're in the preliminary stages of that.
So,
Mr. Scott, sorry, go ahead.
On the junior high, so we're going to have the building, the cafeteria and the classrooms will be done.
Yes, sir.
The circle won't. It's later on.
There's an issue with the parent loop that we need to redesign on or look at additional funding to get where it was due to the district not receiving the grant. So that has to be kind of fleshed out, and we're in the process of working through that.
Because people ask questions, and I don't.
But I appreciate you bringing it up, Mr. Scott, because it would be nice to give a kind of overall construction update and whatever
And
during the committee.
just a reminder to the facilities committee, we do have a standing invitation to those phone calls that happen weekly with the middle school, and then every other week for all the projects. There's a Zoom call that we are invited to.
All right, thank you. All right, we're now to our second citizens comment period. If you have a comment regarding a non-agenda item, and I believe we had Jeremy Stouffer asked to comment, but he, I believe, has left. And Avery Jackson, you still here? Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment regarding any item? All righty, well, that brings us to board comments. So which side should we start on? Mr. Suiters?
I want to thank the university for offering their football field for us. That's very nice, neighborly, and
Agreed. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Suiters. Dr. Lyman?
I would echo that. I think it'd be nice to continue conversations with them. To me, I see one of the other big problems is evidently we're having a hard time finding an opponent willing to play there as well mostly because of the differences in field goal height and
field hash marks.
So those seem like important things to resolve before anything else happens. Keep having the conversation. I'd love to be a good neighbor,
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Nothing.
All right, Ms. Wolfinger?
I just want to extend, again, another heartfelt thank you to Mr. Mag. He wrapped up his final concert last week, 33 years within the Shippensburg Area School District, and it was so nice to see all of the past students of his, generations of students coming out to support his last concert. And then just to kind of touch base about the uniforms, we have officially raised $5,000 through the pillows and tote bags toward the Leaving a Legacy Fund. Mr. Fike, which is the new band director, will be here to greet the students Wednesday evening to come meet them.
Mr. Kressler.
Just to echo what Mr. Suiters and Mr. Lyman said, Dr. Lyman, excuse me. I hope that we can find ways to continue to work and improve the relationship with the university in other aspects. I think there's lots of potential there. And that goes on to not just the university, but also all the other organizations and whatnot throughout the community. Now to go from there, first of all, thanks to the foreign exchange students who came tonight. I mean, that's huge. I can't wait. We're going to find a great place to hang all the flags that we've been getting. That always makes me excited. Tonight when I got here, I walked down and I looked at the gym floor. The gym floor is like almost nearing completion, I think, like the end of next week. Really excited as someone who spent a lot of time on that gym floor. It's going to be great to have that get completed. And then to get into some other things, the baseball team made the playoffs for the first time since 2015. They won their first playoff game 3-1. Everson Weller hit a 2-run homer in the seventh. Today, unfortunately, I saw they lost 8-0. However, they're in the consolation bracket. They're going to play again later this week, hoping to continue and extend their season. I saw since we got here tonight, the softball team won 3-2 in 10 innings on the road at Exeter. So that means both our baseball and softball teams won their opening round games on the road, which is actually pretty incredibly tough to do. So kudos to those folks. Last week, I don't remember what day, but the PIAA officially sanctioned girls wrestling. I don't know if this was planned or not, or if he knew this was going to happen, but Coach Barrick is actually holding open gyms for girls May 24th and 31st after school till 3:45. So if any young ladies are interested in learning about wrestling, there's an opportunity to do so. Finally, two more things. We're before 10. We're still good. To the seniors, again, I said it a couple weeks ago, I hope you guys enjoy your last week. Hope you have a wonderful graduation. I can't wait to be there to watch it, and it's a cool event to have with your friends and your families. You'll never forget it. And then finally, thanks to all of our student athletes, football players who came and spoke tonight. Thanks for being a part of the process. I appreciate it. I take your words to heart, and that's awesome. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up? Does this mean we have a girls wrestling team, or does that just mean we could if we wanted to?
Means we could.
Good if we wanted to.
And would that also mean we could add like a boys volleyball team if we add a girls
So we would
wrestling team?
We would have to look at the Title IX implications of adding a sport.
I saw they were on, that there's at least a club or something as a budget.
Mr. Noggle?
No, nothing.
Ms. Eberly?
Well, I am super excited about girls wrestling. I participate. I wrestled in 10th grade, and I participated in the first female wrestling tournament in Pennsylvania. I think it's great that it's definitely a thing now in little small town Shippensburg. So I'm very proud of that. But I did just want to extend a thank you to Dr. Patterson and to the others at SU for their willingness to be a good community partner. When we met last week, Dr. Patterson reiterated several times that he wanted this partnership to be organic and authentic, and he didn't want it forced. And he showed that by literally accommodating every single need that he could, besides the field goals. But I also understand that change is difficult, and I also didn't want to force that facility usage on anyone. However, I am excited. I mean, I have heard that boys soccer and girls soccer, that they want to play at the university. So, I mean, if not football, possibly soccer. So that really, could, extend that. But I did just want to thank all of the student athletes and the parents for coming and using their voice and being a part of this process.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest that we've perhaps fallen victim to what I'm going to call opposition bias. Through my time on the school board, I've noticed that when an issue comes up on the agenda that people don't like, then they show up and they make their voice heard. But those who are in favor don't necessarily, because they just sort of assume that these things are going to happen and that, you know, the school board's sort of doing its job and kind of making things go. And I mean, we heard certainly, you know, we heard opposition to this, you know, this proposal to play a single home game at the university tonight. And I think that there were, you know, some legitimate concerns brought up. But I worry that because, you know, I mean, there were, I don't know, when you're opposed to something, you're motivated to do something about it, and you know, sort of more motivated, and I think that we sort of heard a kind of biased perspective. And I'd say that because I've, you know, spent the past several weeks just asking people, because it seemed like this might finally happen, that the issues were being addressed and whatever, and I've talked to all sorts of people, and I mean, I obviously don't know everyone, and I only hang out within my circle of whatever, but everyone I asked, you know, used words like, hey, this is a no-brainer. This is a great idea. Like, why wouldn't we do this? And especially when the concerns that were brought up seemed to be addressed. So I'm honestly a little disappointed, and I frankly am a little disappointed that some in positions of authority may have sort of tainted the perspective of some in their charge, and that's frustrating. But I think we also have a job. I mean, if this is something that I want to see happen, and if the board wants to see happen, then I suppose we need to do a better job of selling the benefits to the community and to the you know, the players. I'm frustrated that people don't see it as an opportunity, but rather as a threat, and that's frustrating, especially when so many of the concerns that were legitimate concerns were able to be addressed. But again, I'm very grateful to the university to reaching out and offering this as a proposal. I hope that more concerns can be addressed, and perhaps we can revisit this in some future year. It was never intended as an idea that we would play all of our home games at the university. It was rather intended as a one-day sort of special occasion event, and one home game of the year. And I think there's a real opportunity there for a variety of reasons, and I hope that momentum can build around this idea for some future year. The other thing I just wanted to mention, huge milestone. We're not going to have another meeting until after high school graduation, and my congratulations to all of the graduating seniors. I don't know, for some folks, they point to high school as some of the best years of their life. I do not count myself amongst those. Life began at high school graduation. So if you are one of those folks, then I look forward to seeing the amazing, creative, cool things that you do with your life. And hopefully we have prepared you for that, the coolness that is to come. All right, information date saver. May 24th, School District Special Education Track and Field event, 9 a.m. at the senior high school. May 25th is an athletics committee meeting, 4 p.m. in the conference room of the administration building. June 1 is commencement ceremony for the class of 23 at the Lurs Performing Arts Center on the campus of Shippensburg University. June 2nd is the last day of school. I had counted my weeks wrong, and I was counting the weeks down for my son, and then we finally realized last week that he had one more week of school than what I was telling him, and there was displeasure voiced in our house. June 5th, Budget and Finance Committee meeting at 6 p.m. So there is no regular school board meeting on June 5th, but we will have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting at 6 p.m. on that date. And then our next Committee of the Whole and school board meeting will be on June 12th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Fred Scott.
Mr. Suiters is supposed to make that motion.